Hey, Tess.
Is that what it is?
There you go.
Did you sign Elliot Cutler's?
At least you know you're paying attention if you're sitting in the front seat, right? That's right.
Huh? I said I hate to disappoint him.
You won't tonight.
Yeah.
Was it, but he, you know,
I'm sorry. Are you headachy?
last time I checked.
I feel it coming on. The slow breathe.
That girl's name.
It's a moxie.
In a pressure point.
I'll breathe during public. Belly breathe.
The coffee and using the
Last
pressure point
meeting, I
thing
threw
really
this
helped.
away. I'm out of it.
Actually, yes. That's how they used to treat migraine patients with caffeine.
Sure, let me
Not
go.
doing that, you're in big trouble. Well, you gotta replace some of the, what is this?
I got a couple too guys.
Sweet ones.
Oh, yeah.
Are they a little off color?
And they're supposed to.
Yeah, because,
Kyle's in charge of it for Steve. They don't cost.
That's a lot of money. Years ago when I was investing.
Yeah.
2% is 3%.
And I'm glad I was, when I was getting ready, sometimes for a couple of days at a time in the office, I just, like, what is this, so, 1.5 spending? Yeah. We got to get the date is, at least the date is by the
Smoked white.
And they said, they told me, yeah, that should be our way. And we, you know, like, when we took them in, they looked at them right there, and they started putting on the side ones that they were going to discount. Because we didn't try to get 24. For the single, which I shot it in cash. The notary on date.
So I was sitting next to a white guy getting dressed. What happened today? This is not good. This is not fun when it's time to do. So I don't know. I couldn't believe it. We're gonna have to some chalk
Hey, Tess, do you know if they found a new Peggy yet for the forecaster?
You know what would be even more illustrative?
I don't know.
Pull up, pull up.
Is what's that? I sweat two balls.
I'm sitting on the floor.
Alright, I'm doing it.
Maybe it needs a new one of that. What do they call
I
it?
think I just need to lose a little weight.
Oh,
That's how you know you're happy.
pretty quiet week until this, I guess.
How fast?
Pretty quiet week until this.
And of course, my mother and father.
Oh, is it, you got problems with that? Today?
Good evening and welcome to the March 17th meeting of the Town Council. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
These aren't on.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Alquist?
Here.
Counselor Holbrook?
Here.
Counselor Babine?
Present.
Counselor DeAndrea? Here. Counselor Wood?
Here.
Counselor Vice Chair Roy?
Here. The first item on the agenda is general comments, general public comments. And just for the benefit of those of you that are here, I understand there are a lot of you that perhaps might want to say something during the general comments. You refer to the agenda. The general comment session it's at the beginning of the meeting. Each person is allowed 3 minutes. We have a maximum of 30 minutes where we will accept comment, and then we will move to the business of the town. I will extend the time for the general comments to the end of the meeting, but we do need to complete the business of the town at the beginning, and that's the council rules. So please be aware of that. When you do get up to speak, please state your name and your address. And a couple other things that I just want to make comments about, because I know a lot of it has to do with budget. Number one, where the council has not yet met, the finance committee has not yet met. We have not received the manager's budget until tonight, and he will present his budget tonight. We do not as yet have the hard copy. The finite tuning of that budget is being done by the staff, and the council will have the hard copy of the budget by Friday. So keep that in mind. And certainly also keep in mind that the council has a bottom line decision on the budget, but that will only be after the finance committee meets. And our meetings, just so everybody's aware, are March 25th, 3 to 5, on April 1st, 4 to 6, and on April 8th, 4 to 6. Okay, and you're welcome to attend those if you so wish, or watch them on cable. And certainly, the council is aware of the budget crunch issues, and we are certainly acutely aware of the curtailment. So keep that in mind as you make your comments, and I will put the timer on so that everybody gets their opportunity for their 3 minutes, as many people as possible in the first 30 minutes. With that, I would open it to general public comment.
Good evening and welcome to Warland. I am Jacqueline Perry. I live at 215 Black Point Road, and I am also a member of the Board of Education. There are a number of people here whom I have seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks as we have deliberated the school budget, and you're going to see some of them this evening and more of them as we move forward. I would only ask your patience in that some of them do not understand the process, that you set the bottom line and we decide as a Board of Education how the money is spent. They see that positions have been reduced, that programs are missing, and that is dear to their hearts. I see the same thing and am not very happy myself. I can tell you right now, tomorrow evening I am going to propose to the board that we move forward with the superintendent's budget and not the finance committee's budget. I don't know if I will have support for that, but I have told members of the board that exactly what I'm going to do. The superintendent has that job. My job is to advocate for the students of this community. Your job is to set the bottom line for the town of Scarborough, and I thank you for it, and I expect you to do your job, and I expect us to do our job, and I expect the parents and citizens to do their job. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Please, if you want to make comments, if you would please line up over on that side so that we don't delay the time element.
Good evening. My name is Ian Grant. I live at 46 Gunstock Road. Put myself in the category of being concerned about the school cuts. I've seen a lot of data with respect to comparisons with other towns, with respect to per head spending and such. Yeah, concerned about the quality being lost, one of the key aspects of reasons people come here and stay. So, but I'm not going to talk about that or reference that. I think the question that I'd like to reinforce is the question of priorities. This town has been gripped by high growth recently, tax cuts to the Cabela's, perhaps tax deferments. You would think with the commercial aspect that it would help subsidize other aspects in the town. So the school is pinched, and I wonder if it's a question of priorities. So where are we spending the money? Are we at risk of frittering away at advantage with respect to the schools, which I think helps the town, citizens, certainly the property taxes and such, and reinforcing why people come and stay here. So the key priority driving your priorities as far as aligning them, I think should remain the schools and keeping them viable, effective, successful, but balance them with other things. I just don't want them to be frittered away an advantage. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Helen Rundell. I live at 38 Evergreen Farms Road, and I also want to speak on behalf of the schools. I know you're just starting the process, but I know you've already gotten emails from me about this. I can't think of anything more important to our town than our schools. We moved here, gosh, I can't even remember, 15 years ago. And I've been involved with the schools pretty much since the get-go. My children have gone through them. My son graduated. And I want you to think about the fact that 86% of our high school seniors went to college last year, and that's a tremendous, I think that's marvelous. And I hope that you will support our schools, even if it means we have to increase our taxes. We have the lowest per pupil costs for almost in the entire state, and there's not a lot of room to cut anymore. And the quality will have to go down if we don't support the schools. And I think you will find, since we get to vote on the budget as a town, that if you allow us the opportunity, we will support a tax increase if we have to. So I hope you will support, and I agree with Jackie, I hope that you get the superintendent's budget, but I hope you will support the schools. Thank you.
My name is Christine Kuka. I live at 3 Spruce Circle. I emailed all of you today with results from a survey that we conducted for Saving Excellence in Scarborough Schools. I hope you will look long and hard at that, particularly at the percentage of people who are willing to pay more, anywhere between 6 and 8% more for property taxes, and also the amount which ranged from $5 to $2,000 per house. I want to echo something that was said there. One of the last questions that you'll see is, or second to the last, is re-examining fees, permits charged to vendors, builders, developers. Many towns have looked into whether or not TIFs and other financial incentives that have been offered to businesses, if they did not keep their employment promise, if you should go back and re-examine whether the tax abatements that were granted were justified or not. In the long run, education is the linchpin to this community. It gives value to our properties, it gives integrity to our community, and it gives us a generation of people who hopefully will stay here, create jobs, take care of us in our old age. It is vital to this community that we have a vibrant education system. I also encourage you to please scroll down and read the long-term responses that residents made on that survey about what their priorities were for municipal spending. It's very insightful. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Chris Taylor and I live at 5 Marcia Street. I am also echoing a lot what other people are saying in terms of the favoring a tax increase if we need to do that. I would certainly favor a tax increase to make some of these cuts not happen. I do agree that the sense that we are one of the lowest per pupil costs is certainly not something to cheer about. I remember someone saying that, within the last year, that something that you might be ashamed about, that we spend that amount of money. But I do feel like we're at a crossroads right now in terms of where we're going to go next. I had heard another speaker recently say something that kind of echoed with me, this idea of trying to keep our expenses down. In the short run, what that could do is make some people happy in the short run, but then in terms of things like property values, people moving to our town, seeing education as being a type of excellence here, that might take 10 years, 12 years, something like that to recover. If it could take 1 or 2 years to do some swift harm and take quite a while to recover that kind of reputation in our town. And so I do have great concerns about where we might be going. If we're going to be a town that is really known for just tight purse strings and that type of fiscal responsibility, it certainly is understandable given the times we live in, but I don't think that we want that to be our ultimate goal. And just finally, I do feel like we've gotten quite a bang for our buck given our per pupil spending, almost unreasonable, in some ways, I guess, in terms of having state championship teams, academic decathlons, being the top tier, compared to Cape and Yarmouth and Falmouth. I feel like it's coming to an end, that you can't sustain that too much longer at what we're doing. I don't want to feel like a comparison. I'm always comparing to Cape or Yarmouth, but I think that's always, we're in this tier, and I think if we're going to kind of stay in that tier of being one of the highest achieving schools, that we need to make some of these decisions. If we don't make those decisions, I do think there are going to be a lot of people, including myself, that will start looking to Yarmouth or other places. Thank you.
My name's Dave Green. I live at 135 Beach Ridge Road, and I will probably, when I get done here, be one of the least popular people in this room. But I don't appreciate people coming down here saying, spare no expense on the taxes. We want to spend more on the schools. There's a whole lot of people in this town, I see them every day because I work around town, that can't afford to have their taxes go up another 3%, 4%. They're struggling now. People without jobs and everything else. I don't think there's any problem with maintaining the status quo without dumping it on the back of the taxpayers as an increase. So I don't agree that people come down and say, well, just raise the taxes. You can't afford to continue to raise the taxes. The well's going to go dry. And sooner or later, we're going to be living in a town that if you don't make 6 figures, you're not going to be able to afford to live here. I don't make 6 figures, okay? And I hang on right by my nails. Tax time's due, and I got to pay the taxes, and I struggle. And I'm not ashamed to admit it, okay? And keeping up with the Joneses doesn't cut it when it comes to having to raise the property taxes for a lot of people, a lot of elderly people. They can't afford it. They're on fixed incomes. I'm on a fixed income. Nobody raised my salary 3% this year, okay? So you need to consider that, all right? I don't think we're going to start turning out illiterate kids 12 years from now because we don't raise the taxes this year to accommodate the school budget. If the school budget needs more money, let's go look at where we can take it from somewhere else. You rob Peter and pay Paul, okay? It's simple finances. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Farley, I live at 6 Ridgeway Road. I think a lot of what we're here tonight comes in between both. Given we all know what the economy is doing, people can't and probably don't want to see an increase in their taxes if they know the money is going towards the school system. A lot of people, myself included, would find a way to pay it. In terms of where the town is spending their money, I'm seeing on the report, 3 to 6% increase for the fire department, for the police department, for administration. I don't see any cuts in administration. I think there's ways that we could consolidate some of the administration in the school system. We need to keep the schools. I've got a sophomore, 2 more years. I really think this is a crux time for the town of Scarborough. We came here back in '94. Given what property values are, and hopefully they're rising, a lot of people are going to be making decision, is it, time to sell while I can, while the school systems are adequate, but not what they used to be. When he's a senior and after he's graduated, I talked to my wife tonight, I said, we're going to take a hard look at what's going on, whether we decide to stay in Scarborough. We love Scarborough, we've done a lot in this town, but without a good school system, you're not going to keep your property values up, and people are just going to start exiting. We're going to start to see a big exodus out of Scarborough. It's important to keep the schools. I'm really disappointed with him becoming a junior and a senior that they're going to eliminate the the college placement position. I think that's really important where we do have so many kids going on to school. The guidance counselors are way overworked. There's just other places in the town I think that we can cut. So it's not going to be just raise taxes, do what the school budget wants. It's a combination of both. Slight increase, take it from some of the other departments, take a look at some of the things that we were said tonight about in terms of the tax abatements for, business in town. So thank you for the job you're doing, and I hope you do the right thing.
Hi, my name is Carrie Golder. I'm from 10 Thomas Drive. I came down here tonight because I have 2 children that are very young, who have a long ways to go in the school system. And I worry that by the time they get to the high school, there's going to be nothing left for them. That they're not going to have much information available to them to succeed in life. And when I went to high school down in New York, I had so much available to me. My high school is now in the top 50 in the country. And I look to the Scarborough School and I think, where's the comparison? 20 years ago, my high school was more developed technologically than this high school is now. That scares me. There's no way I'm going to keep my kids here and raise my kids in this town if education's not important. I agree with quite a few people. I don't know whether the taxes should be raised or whether they shouldn't. If they are raised, I'm happy to pay them if it means that that percentage, that raised amount, is going to go towards the school system. I think you guys have a big job ahead of you. I appreciate the work that you're doing, but I would ask that you consider the children of Scarborough and what their future is going to hold. I'd rather have a broken road than a broken child, and I'd rather see something done with education level to know that we are going to be able to compete with all the other school systems throughout this country and be top-notch. It's not going to stay top-notch if the money is not put into the school system. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jean Marie Caterina, and I live at 311 Gorham Road. And I'm here tonight as a real estate professional. I sell probably 20 to 30 houses a year, and I can tell you I've been in this business since 2002. I've had maybe 2 people ask me what the tax rate is in a town when they're making a decision where they want to move to. But almost every person asks me about the school systems. What's the school system like? Does it have a good reputation? What sort of education will my children get? So out of curiosity, I called Paul Lesperance today, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He told me that the average assessed value in Scarborough is $277,200, and again, that's the average assessed value. He said that means that the average tax paid by a citizen in Scarborough, a homeowner, is $3,370. Now, I was looking at the proposed school board amount of 3.87% increase, but actually I was happy before I left the house and heard that Jackie Perry's going to support the superintendent's budget, which is more. But that would mean an increase on the average tax of $130.42 annually, which is an increase of 36 cents a day. Now, if we did an increase of 10%, that would be maybe $1 a day more in taxes. I'm willing to pay that, and I don't even have any children in the school system at this point. But again, I can't reiterate enough that people who are buying real estate are looking at the quality of schools before they're looking at what the tax rate is. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Brian Barry. I'm at 17 Fowler Farm Road. I just wanted to, I guess what I wanted to say is, you guys get to give us the school council the bottom line, the budget that they get to use, and you understand all the cuts that they would have to make if you come in under their budget. If you do that, then you're setting the tone for the town. You're our leaders, and you are staying where you prioritize education as a focus of our town. So if you propose anything less than what the school needs in order to eliminate or not have any of these cuts, and and you're deprioritizing education versus all the other things and all the other allocations that you make contributions to throughout the town, then you're just stating your position and your vision for this town. I have children, young children in the school system. I'm looking at the next 5 to 10 years, and your tone, your vision, your bottom line is going to dictate whether or not this is an area or a community that I want to root in. So I hope you consider that when you're making your final decision. There are areas in which we can, we need money. Let's raise taxes and change the allocation so that we can meet the needs just to cover this deficit. We shouldn't be cutting the kids' education. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Michelson. I live at 5 Edgewater Road, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the school budget. Earlier tonight, there was a gentleman that stated that he did not mind keeping the status quo. I don't mind keeping the status quo either, but when I look at these proposed cuts, to me, that's not status quo. That is simply regression. I think education is the bedrock to this society, and I don't think we should scrimp on that. With respect to raising taxes, I'm not necessarily in favor of that either, but what I am in favor of is a review of the allocation towards the school budget. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Bruce Walker. I live at 15 Grandview Drive, and I just want to voice support for the school budget. I know that we're in very difficult times with very difficult choices. I feel that at that point, you have to revert to your values. And I think a lot of folks have spoken about the values that they want this town to stand for, and education is one of them. You can defer maintenance on a building, but you can't defer a child's education. So I just hope that we keep the funding for the school budget and we find ways to make that happen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Clark. I live at 8 Edgewater Drive. I made a quality of life move to Maine 6 years ago. I lived in a extraordinarily high-taxed area of Long Island, New York. I had a 2,000 square foot house that I paid $13,000 a year in taxes, but I sent my kids to a very well-funded school system. I thought Scarborough was a bargain when I moved into my house. I pay $6,000 worth of taxes a year and thought that they had a first-rate education. I'm not exactly worried about the Cape Elizabeths and the Falmouths. I'm worried about the people that I left in New York. Their kids are ready for college. I have a daughter who's a junior, so I feel like I've gotten her through the well-funded years of Scarborough, but I have 2 children in the primary level that I am intensely worried about their ability to meet what their sister has received for an education. I serve on the board of the primary PTO. I spend a ton of time in the buildings, and I would urge you to do the same so that these cuts don't look like numbers on a paper. They are programs, they are teachers, they are more smaller classes. I can't even imagine putting more kids than what we have now in our classes, so I urge you to really look at that. I don't profess to understand the budget process. However, I have seen firsthand what they could look like. If none of this is, I would like you to go look in the school buildings. If that's not possible for you, please consider my property value. I bought at the height of the market, and once we become known as a town who chooses not to fund our schools, it's going to take a very long time, as everyone has said, to get that reputation back. I don't want to have to live there until I'm 70. I want to move down to Piper Shores. So please protect my property value. Send a message out that Scarborough does value education, and if that means raising my taxes, please do so. And if it means shifting money from one part of the municipal budget and to the schools, I will see that as a valuable thing as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maureen DeVoe. I have children in the primary school in Wentworth, one going to middle school. So what's going on with this budget is extremely important to me. I work almost full-time in the school now to support my teachers, who for some reason have gotten a reputation of being whiners, complainers. What's the other word I heard from somebody? Whistleblowers, I don't know. They are so hardworking, and they have absorbed every single cut that we made last year. And the statement that we are cutting wants, not needs, is absolutely false. I work there every day. I would encourage you to go in and see what's going on. The classrooms are bigger. The services have been taken down. Their support staff is gone. If parents were not helping out, I cannot imagine how they would meet the needs of the students. I have gifted and talented students who couldn't get into the program because that's now 2%. So talented kids have nowhere to go. The teachers are doing their best to make 3 levels of education with 1 teacher in a room. These cuts are just fierce. They are absolutely needs and not wants. I know it firsthand. I'm there every day supporting all of my teachers. So I've urged people to advocate, and this is an absolute factual statement. I had 3 friends whose houses are now on the market that specifically told me, it's too hard to fight here anymore. It is much easier to move to a town who values education than it is to fight this fight. I love this town. I grew up in Falmouth. I moved here for the diversity, and because I really believed when I moved here that this school system was better, and it was. When we went to the school board meeting, they encouraged us to come here and speak with you. So that's why I'm doing that. I thought I needed to speak there, but apparently we need to speak here. But the cuts are fierce. They are going to affect the quality of our children's education. And they said, you should be proud of what we built here. We are. We were. That's why we came here. But the quality of education that my kindergartner is receiving is already not the same as my son. It's not. The class size is larger. The teachers are stressed. It's not the same. Programs have been cut. So by the time my kindergartner gets to high school, if these cuts continue, she's not going to have that level of education. I agree with Mrs. Clark. We're not competing against Gorham and Scarborough and Cape. We're competing against Connecticut, New York, California, an international community that is much, much better prepared. I have sisters in Connecticut, Florida, New York, and Atlanta. Their curriculum is extremely better than ours. It's just a fact. So I encourage you to not put forth these cuts. There has to be somewhere else in this town that we can make a sacrifice than on the backs of our children. I just don't believe we're that town.
My name is Chris Freem. I live at 14 Horseshoe Drive. Echoing a lot of the sentiments of other things I've heard here this evening, here primarily, we came to Scarborough 7 years ago. One of our major topics for coming to this town was the value of education and the quality of life here. We have a first-class town. We should have first-class schools. Recognize there's a limited pool of money. Even if we did raise taxes, it's never an easy thing to balance a budget, particularly in this economy. I run a small business. It's never easy, but taking it from the school system is a short-term solution to a problem that gets worse if we don't take care of it now. And the cuts that were proposed are too deep to even maintain the status quo. This is a step backwards, which would take twice as big a hole to fill later, and it have to be done at some time. I understand it's unpleasant to raise taxes in a time of this economy, but if we don't protect the value of what we have, it all comes back to haunt us later. Very simple. Thank you.
Brian Kenny, I live at 9 Lobos Road in Scarborough. I'll assure you my cell phone is off, but I have my notes on my phone, so. I'm certainly not excited. I'm going to read from this because I had a lot that I had sent in an email to some friends this week. I'm certainly not excited about paying higher taxes. Frankly, I don't think we should have to, because I don't believe the school budget is where Scarborough should look to trim its budgets. As I attended the last few summer parades, I have noticed how many seemingly new ladder trucks Scarborough has. To me, it seems disproportionate to the number of high-rise buildings in town. To my knowledge, there aren't many buildings over 4 to 6 stories, all of which seem to be between the main med area and Dunstan. So why do we have more than 2, possibly 3 ladder trucks? There are no high-rises in West Scarborough, Black Point, etc. I'm not opposed to the idea of numerous fire stations due to the geographic size of Scarborough. In an emergency, we want them to respond quickly. I do believe they should be thoughtfully staffed with geographically oriented equipment to service the buildings of that area. Imagine how many new school books we could buy with the more than $500,000 I suspect those trucks cost. If I'm not mistaken, last year I think I counted 7, but I could be wrong. Not to mention the expensive passenger vehicles the fire department has. I'm not sure if the town pays for fuel for personal use, but those are just a few questions I believe we should all be asking. I appreciate having a top-notch fire department, but if we need to make financial sacrifices, I believe that would be, and other departments within the town, a more appropriate place to start. I don't like the thought of services being cut in this town. I believe this is one of the best communities in southern Maine in which to live and raise children, but I am also aware of the economic realities we are faced with. I also worry about people who have lost their work as an employee or a business owner losing volume, many of which are teetering on the financial edge, and higher taxes which may cause anyone else to lose their house is unacceptable if avoidable. A bitter reality in this town for many years has been the senior population pleading for a senior center. Do we really need more brick and mortar capital, or should we ask our town leaders to think outside the box and offer that very service in one of our school buildings? I'm sorry. In one of our school buildings. And I apologize, I just lost my place. I hit the wrong button. That could hold events for seniors complete with movies in the auditorium, dinners in the cafe, dancing, book clubs in the library, etc. We have the facilities in place for them to recognize some benefits for their hard-earned tax dollars, which might just build a partnership between the age-gapped interests in Scarborough. Children are the future of our families, community, state, and country. They are the most precious and valuable resource we have. We need to be great stewards of their opportunities and future. To do that, we need to put most of our energy, interest, and financial support into making their futures as bright and successful as possible. If it takes higher taxes to have great schools, teachers, and programs to give our kids the chance for success they deserve, so be it. I believe the council and town leadership can make concessions in other areas to preserve the quality of education we have all grown to appreciate in this town. I ask you to support the schools. I think we can find other places in this town. I think we all enjoy some of the services that could be cut in other areas, but I think it should not start with schools because inevitably they will take care of us someday. I think we owe it to them to take great care of them now. So, thank you.
We are almost at the end of the 30 minutes. I'll allow one more.
I'll be quick. My name is Kelly Altaffer, and I live at 7 Chestnut Drive. We moved to Scarborough at the end of the last school year, and to be honest with you, I'm really questioning whether we made the right decision. We moved here from Massachusetts, and my son is in 5th grade at Wentworth, and prior to coming here, he came from a school district that had a much, much stronger curriculum. And I think we all need to sit back, and I know nobody wants to pay higher taxes. I mean, I don't love higher taxes. I was thrilled when I came here and my taxes were cheaper than they were in Massachusetts. But it's an investment in our future. It's the investment in our children. And by robbing the school system, and that's in essence what we're doing, we're robbing the next generation. And I know that this is a diverse community. People move to Scarborough for lots of different reasons. Some people like the beaches. Some people like the access to the interstate. Some people like to be close to Portland. Some people just moved here because of the education system that they thought was great here. And I think that we need to be realistic and think about the impact that education places on every single person's property values. The person that can't afford the property tax increase, well, if we don't invest in our school, their property value is going to decline. All these people that bought at the top of at the market, their houses are going to be worthless. Nobody wants to live in a town if you don't invest in the schools. So nobody wants a tax increase, but we need a tax increase because it's the right thing to do for our town. Thanks.
Thank you. How many other folks wanted to make any comments? I'll allow a couple more, and then we need to move on with the agenda for the night. 2 more.
Hi, I'm Amy Volk. I live at 4 Elbridge Oliver Way. And I don't know how many of you, I know some of you were at some of the school board's meetings. And I had attended one of the meetings for Saving Excellence in Scarborough Schools. And one of the things I was most alarmed by was when the high school teachers spoke about how poor the morale was at the high school. And a lot of that stemmed from the fact that the teachers haven't had a salary increase or even a contract, in fact, for quite some time. That's my understanding. And meanwhile, we've been giving pay raises to firefighters and police officers. And they're great. You know, we have a very safe town, and I appreciate the work that they do. But I think that there's something wrong with giving pay raises to one sector and ignoring such an important sector as our educators. So, you know, I think that the school budget, in actuality, rather than just being status quo, really should be increased, because to accommodate these teachers who are looking elsewhere right now for other jobs. They're preparing their resumes. And that's pretty disturbing, because a lot of them, they're the best teachers that we have. And they know they could get a job somewhere else. So I think we should consider that. I've got kids, 4 children, ranging in age from kindergarten to a senior. And I know firsthand how hardworking our teachers are and how many hours they put in. I remember driving by Pleasant Hill School when my daughter was there. She's a sophomore now. And her teacher's car was frequently the only one in the parking lot. And this would be 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I think we'd really, I don't want to say increase our taxes. I think the money can be found elsewhere. I think, you know, whether you encourage some of the some retirement in some positions, and you don't refill those positions. If we do have to have a tax increase, maybe you do it with a sunset clause. So it's not a permanent tax increase, and people who are struggling can see, okay, we'll do this 2 or 3 years, hopefully the economy will improve, and we can afford to lower those taxes again. And then why aren't we combining services with nearby towns? I don't understand that. Cumberland County in general, I think there are a lot of services that we could be combining with Gorham, Cape Elizabeth, South Portland. We're all close by. We have typical populations and, similar populations. So, let's be creative instead of just taking the axe to the budget at the school. So that's what I would like to encourage you to encourage the school board to do and encourage the other departments. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roger Dwarin. I live on 3 Powderhorn Drive. I grew up one street over on Flintlock Drive. I tell people that it's taken me about 40 years to travel about 100 yards in my life. But I feel like I know Scarborough a little bit. And I came up through the educational system here, but when I got to high school, my parents decided that they wanted to send me to Cheverus. And they ended up doing the same thing for my brother, and they sent my 2 sisters to Waynfleet at great personal expense and sacrifice to them, and actually to a bit of sacrifice for myself and my siblings in that we worked our way through those schools. I am a little bit concerned that there are going to be more and more people who are thinking along those lines. I feel as a town we've made an enormous amount of progress over the course of the past 30 years in terms of building up the educational system here in Scarborough, building up our reputation as a town that offers excellence in many different things. But I am concerned as a parent now, looking forward to the future. I have 3 boys in the system here, 1 in Wentworth, 1 in the middle school, and 1 a senior at the high school, that we're not making the commitment, the town-wide commitment to education that we need to. I am a bit of a rookie at this, so I don't know enough to know where we could be moving money around within budgets. But I think it's important that you all, as the leaders of this town, send a message out to the people in this town and to surrounding communities that Scarborough takes education very seriously. Thank you very much for your service.
With that, I'm going to close the comment section. Are there any others that, are you going to be the last person? Because we can't keep adding, because we do have to get about the business of the town. We have a lot of other things on the agenda. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Trish Cowie. I'm at 5 Hemlock Circle. I apologize if I repeat anything that Jean Marie might have spoken to as a realtor. The internet is a great thing. When people show up to look at property in this area, they've already done their research, and I'm frequently asked to compare towns. It's a fair housing violation if I specify school districts or religious persuasions, everything else. So I just have to show people the property. When they ask me for an opinion, they're frequently asking me to compare Falmouth and Scarborough, for example. And I say, well, Falmouth has 3 private golf courses, no beaches, and a yacht club. Scarborough has 3 public golf courses, beaches, and a very exclusive yacht club that nobody can use. But folks are doing the research, they're choosing, they see the value of coming to Scarborough, and I think it'd be a real disservice to the town to take any steps backward. Thank you.
My name is Leah Kane, and I have lived in Scarborough my whole life since I was about 6 years old. So I live on 160 Holmes Road, and my parents have grown up here, paid taxes, since I was 6. And I know what the school's given kids and what they've gone through and what they've had. And my child is in 5th grade, and I just want him to have the same opportunities that I had since, I've paid in all my times. I just feel like there's some ways maybe you can have some discounts for people that can't afford to pay. I mean, I have a daycare, but I don't feel like I should cut down on what my kids should learn just because we can't find the money for them. I know when they're very young, I've seen some of the things that they're cutting. I just feel like that's when their brain's all developing. To cut those programs is really not fair to the kids, and I feel like we're going to pay for it later on if we do this. So.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public comment time. I thank you all for your input, and certainly as we peruse through this process, which is going to be tedious, we will keep all of those thoughts in mind. I've taken notes, and I notice all of my colleagues have been taking notes. And certainly, we are acutely aware of the budget situation, and I would welcome any of you to stay to listen to the presentation of the manager's budget, which will come later in the meeting. If not, you can watch it later when it's published. I think you can webcast it too. So, thank you. Next item 5, the minutes of the March 3rd, 2010 meeting. Move approval. Second. Are there any errors, omissions?
All correct.
All those in favor? Item 6, adjustments to the agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to adjust in the agenda process? No? Items to be signed, there are treasurer's warrants that will be signed by the end of the meeting.
Resolution 10-02 is the recognition of the month of April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
I will read it, I guess. I would move approval of Resolution 10-02 in recognition of the month of April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month as follows. Be it resolved by the Council of the Town of Scarborough, Maine, in the Town Council assembled, that whereas sexual assault affects women, children, and men of all races, cultural, and economic background, and whereas in addition to the immediate physical and emotional costs sexual assault may also have associated consequences of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, depression, homelessness, eating disorders, and suicide, and whereas sexual assault can be devastating for not only the survivor but also for the family and friends of the survivor, and whereas no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault on their own, but we can work together to educate our entire population about what can be done to prevent sexual assault, support victim survivors and their significant others, and increase support for agencies providing services to victim survivors, and whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month provides excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing sexual violence. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Scarborough Town Council and Town Council assembled that we do hereby proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, signed and dated this 17th day of March 2010 on behalf of the Scarborough Town Council and the Town Manager of Scarborough, Maine. And that's in form of motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments? All those in favor? Thank you.
Under new business, order number 10-23 is a first reading and refer to the Planning Board on the proposed amendments to Chapter 405, the zoning ordinance regarding the rural residence and farming district and rural residence farming and manufactured housing district, and to create new definitions and performance standards associated with agriculture.
Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan Bacon, Town Planner. Order numbers 10, 23, 24, and 25 are all interrelated, so I'm going to talk to them about them in general. They're all Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee initiatives, and they all relate to rural zoning and agriculture in the rural zone as well as our other residential zones. And this is an initiative that the committee has actually been working on for about a year now. And it's really a threefold initiative. It's intended to implement the town's comprehensive plan for the rural zoning districts. It's also intended to better allow for and more clearly allow for agriculture in our rural zones. It's also intended to better allow for and more clearly allow for accessory, more personal agriculture in our other residential and commercial zones. There's also some broader goals for this initiative. One is to really try to enable farms to succeed and diversify in Scarborough, enable more opportunities for the growing of produce and therefore the buying of local produce and agricultural products, enable folks to have hobby farms, make sure it's allowed to have gardens and chickens and such, accessory agricultural activities, not for sale necessarily, while at the same time recognizing that a lot of these farms and accessory agricultural activities are next to neighborhoods and in neighborhoods. So in this proposal are also some standards and some limitations on those allowances. As I said, the committee's been working on this for about a year. We started with a public meeting last April to kick off the process, invite participation early on to better understand the issues. We had a focus group last fall with 15 to 20 rural landowners and also some residents that are interested in accessory agriculture, and also some residents that aren't particularly interested in agriculture, to get a broad array of opinions. And more recently, in January, we had a public meeting to go over what was shaping up to be the final draft of the proposal, to make some last adjustments before this proposal before you. And throughout that process, we've received a lot of input that's really shaped this proposal and made a lot of adjustments along the way to better understand agriculture in Scarborough and hopefully better allow for it. The council should have a 3-page overview that in your packages that attempts to highlight the key points, and I'm just going to quickly walk through that, and certainly can be available for more detailed questions should you have them or the public have some. Firstly, it's important to point out that the committee is proposing to amend the purpose statements of both the RF and the RFM zones. And this sort of underscores the effort by CPIC. And adding to the purpose statement is the phrase to encourage the continuation of agriculture and related activities. And coupled with that, CPIC is recommending that the zones be renamed to Rural and Farming District, Rural Farming and Manufactured Housing District, again to highlight the rural farming natures of these two zones. In terms of substance of the zoning amendments, the committee's proposing to define agriculture in 3 ways. One definition is accessory agricultural activities, and those are activities in conjunction with a home or a business, and they're really activities that are for personal use or consumption. That's the backyard garden, chickens, allowing for beehives, etc., but not agriculture that's intended to sell to others. Accessory agriculture activities are proposed to be allowed in most every zone. They include allowances, again, for chickens, depending on your lot size. There's standards for the keeping of chickens. There's also provisions for smaller farm animals if a property has an acre or more, and larger farm animals if a property has 2 acres or more. The second type of agriculture being defined in the ordinance is commercial agricultural activities, and those are the growing of plants or crops for sale. This use is proposed to be allowed in the RF zone as well as the RFM zone, and is proposed as a special exception requiring zoning board approval in the R2 zone. The third type of agriculture is proposed as commercial animal husbandry. That's the raising and keeping of farm animals primarily for sale or the sale of their products. And that use is proposed to be allowed in the RF and the RFM zones and would require 2 acres for that activity. Coupled with both commercial agricultural activities is an allowance for processing of agricultural products. That's pasteurizing milk, making ice cream, making honey, making bacon, for example. And that would be allowed, again, the RF and the RFM zone. Related to commercial agriculture are some updates to how the town would treat farm stands. We want to clarify when and where farm stands are allowed, and the committee is recommending an additional larger scale farm stand that's being called a agricultural product store that would allow the sale of agricultural products in a space up to 1,000 square feet of sales area. Also allows for greenhouses and related buildings and activities. There are a few other amendments in the RF and the RFM zone that deal with uses that can go along with farming or can play a role in keeping land open. The committee is proposing to allow for bed and breakfast establishments, thinking that such a use could foster more interest in agritourism, that type of thing, inns in the more rural areas. There's a proposal to allow for day camps as a permitted use on larger properties, to clarify that forestry is a permitted use in the rural zones, and the committee is also proposing some new special exception uses in the zones, which will require zoning board of appeals review, kennels, commercial stables, veterinary facilities, commercial outdoor recreation, as well as agricultural employee housing. So many of those uses fit well with agriculture or are related. Lastly, there are 2 residential use changes that are recommended in the comprehensive plan, and those are to allow 2-family dwellings in these 2 zones. 2-family dwelling would need twice the land area as a single-family house. So in the RF and the RFM zones, that would be 4 acres as opposed to 2 acres for a single-family house. And there's also a proposal to allow multifamily housing up to 4 units per building if those houses are part of a conservation subdivision design. And that type of development requires significant open space to be protected as part of its design. So, in a nutshell, those are the high points of the proposal. Certainly available to respond to any questions you may have, or if the public has comments or questions as well. Thanks.
Thank you. I need a motion for first reading and refer it to the planning board.
I'll be glad to make that motion that we approve order number 10-23 for first reading, refer it to the planning board.
Second.
Comments? Councilor Wood?
I'll just say I'll thank Dan and his staff at planning and also CPIC, and most importantly, I think the various citizens that came out during the neighborhood meetings and provided us valuable input. This is our first reading. I imagine there might be some changes to this by the time we enact it. I'm hopeful that we will. I think it's important here that being somewhat associated with planning and zoning in town for going on about 12 years now, planning board and now council, I'm pleased to see that we've made quite a transition of sorts here. I think that if you looked back 15 years ago, I think this town was moving towards, if not already entrenched in a vision that all its residential zones would someday just be subdivision after subdivision. And I might go ahead and admit that maybe 15 years ago I didn't see much beyond that myself. But over these years, hearing from the citizens and the creativeness of our staff, I think what you see before you now is a vision that embraces the opportunity for citizens to use the land in a much greater way than they could previously, and brings back that notion that it's okay to drive down Broad Turn Road or Holmes Road and stop at a farm stand where folks are selling their fruits and vegetables that they grew on their property, et cetera. So I'm excited about this change in our ordinances, and I fully endorse it. Thank you.
Councilor DeAndrew?
Thank you. You know, having been on the ordinance committee for a little over a year now, I gained a lot of respect for the work that goes into this, and I have to say the CPIC committee must have worked very hard on this. There was a lot of, I think, good thought and work put into this. I want to thank them for it. I, too, am really excited about this, hoping that it moves through briskly and well, and we can get this implemented. I'm sure we'll all have more specific questions, but in general, I just wanted to, again, thank the CPIC committee, and looking forward to moving ahead on this.
Councilor Hoper?
I just wanted to state that I do by and large support the vast majority of this, but I do want to mention that the Department of Agriculture does have the opportunity, have their 90 days to review any ordinance change pertaining to rural farming, and I do want to see what their comments and reviews are on this before we come to a point of the second reading. I'll be very interested to see what they have to say. Again, by and large, I do support the vast majority of this. There are a few things that I don't particularly understand. You know, it does allow for somebody like me in an RF zone to have 40 head of cattle, but I have to beg, borrow, and steal and plead to have 2 stalls rented in my barn. So there are some things I have a little bit of concern with, but by and large, this is great, and they did great work, and I do appreciate it.
Councilor Elkins?
I too support this. I think it probably needs a little tweaking. They all seem to. But certainly, I agree with Councilor Wood. If we look where we were 15 years ago or whatever, and the direction we were headed, I think this is a big turnaround, and I think it really, I think it recognizes the rural parts of Scarborough, and certainly lets us do this stuff. Lets me raise chickens, and which I enjoy to do, and you know, and you don't have that fear, I guess, that somebody's out to get you, to stop that from happening. I just think it's a wonderful flavor, you know, to put in the rural parts of Scarborough, and I think it's terrific. I do agree that it probably does need a little bit of tweaking here and there, but certainly I think Dan and the CPIC committee have done tremendous amounts of work on this, and I certainly appreciate it, and I hope it goes forward. Most of it will be approved, and it'll be very little change.
I too want to thank the CPIC committee and Dan for all the hard work. I think, you know, there's a lot of work that's gone into it. I just find it rather ironic, having moved to Scarborough in 1952, when we were predominantly a farming community, and everybody could have their chickens and have their cows and goats and pigs, and the farm that I lived on, we had all those things. And now, you know, we're trying to save it. We went to the point of almost annihilating rural farming in Scarborough, and so this is a great step, you know, at least to preserve some of what we have for open area and farming area. I think on our farm, we did. We had chickens, we had cows, we had pigs, you know. The only thing we didn't have was a horse, so, and we sold things at the street level, gladiolus and homemade butter and those kinds of things. So it's just kind of interesting how the circle of life comes around. So this will move on to the planning board, and they will make proposals and then send it back to the council for action and public hearing and final action from the council. So, Councilor Babine, you thought of something.
I knew that was going to. So I have a question to ask, actually, to Councilor Holbrook's comments around the 90 days. Is this something that we could submit early to the Department of Agriculture to get their comments prior, you know?
We probably already have.
We've sent it to the commissioner on March 4th.
Okay.
So they have up to 90 days to respond, but they could respond to the town earlier. So once we get through planning board public hearing and to council public hearing, we haven't heard from, we'll call up there and see if they have comments and try to understand what the timeline would be, so we could schedule a second reading and it'll leave enough time to be able to make adjustments should there be recommendations for changes.
Thank you.
Councilor Elkins?
I think it says they can respond. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will respond. I think we went through this a number of years ago where they chose not to respond, so.
Right, and we'll contact them to clarify whether they are going to respond and have comments or not, so.
Actually, just to clarify, because Councilor Holbrook handed, it says, the commissioners shall review the proposed ordinance and advise the municipality as to whether, so I see that as being more concrete than maybe not.
Right, they advise if they find that we're prohibiting or restricting various agricultural practices, so if we aren't, there's a chance they may not respond, but we'll clarify that.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of Order 1023? None opposed.
That was adjournment.
Order number 1024 is the first reading and refer to the planning board on the proposed amendments to Chapter 405, the zoning ordinance regarding residential 2 district and the other residential mixed use and non-residential districts to allow for accessory agricultural activities.
Again, I'll refer to Dan.
Thank you. I touched on this in the earlier presentation, but the proposal here is to allow in the residential 2 zone, commercial agriculture as well as farm stands and agricultural product stores as special exceptions in that zone, and also to allow for what's being called accessory agricultural activities in all other zones. And those are the backyard gardens and chickens based on your lot size, beehives, agriculture for your personal use. So that's the tenor of this proposal.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move
Please.
I'll move approval of order number 10-24 for first reading and refer to the planning board.
I'll second.
Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
Order number 1025 is a first reading and refer to the planning board the proposed amendments to Chapter 405B, the site plan review ordinance, Section 2, applicability, subsection B, activities exempt from site plan review.
Dan?
All right, this is an amendment, again, tied to the other 2, that makes it clear that agricultural buildings don't trigger planning board review under site plan review, and also spells out that farm stands up to 400 square feet also don't require planning board site plan review. So this is really a housekeeping change to make sure the ordinances are matching up appropriately.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Mike?
I'll just say again, this is just another statement and of commitment that the town has in ensuring that, or in helping citizens to move along and realizing greater use of their property, and if they wish to explore agricultural use. This just, in a small way maybe, but it reduces the amount of bureaucracy and red tape that might otherwise follow that endeavor. I support it.
Other comments? Questions? Oh, wait, did we have a motion?
Oh, no? Okay. I'll move approval of order number 10-25 for first reading and referral to the planning board.
Second.
All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
Order number 1026 is a first reading and refer to the planning board on the proposed amendments to Chapter 405C, the Shoreland zoning ordinance, Section 13C, stream protection 2 district.
And Dan?
Thank you. This is another comprehensive plan committee initiative. It also relates largely to the rural part of the community, and it's proposal to expand the stream protection district along the Nonsuch River from the 75-foot stream protection district that exists today to a 250-foot stream protection district consistent with the Stewart Brook Stream Protection 2 district in the Shoreland zoning ordinance. The map here shows you the Nonsuch River watershed. It's the town's largest watershed. The river basically circles the community, as I'm sure all of you know. It starts in Saco, it traverses north and then east and then south into Scarborough Marsh. It's a 40 square mile, I should say, watershed. And the comprehensive plan is recommending this greater buffer pertain to new development and not impact existing homes or developed properties in the watershed. And the recommendation is, given the significance of the Nonsuch River, the fact that it is the largest watershed draining into Scarborough Marsh, to maintain high water quality in the river as well as the marsh, and also to provide opportunities for wildlife habitat and a greenway throughout this watershed. And this map illustrates the actual zoning map proposal, which is your next order, which shows both the the current 75-foot stream protection district, which is in purple, and then the larger 250-foot stream protection district 2, which is in blue. The committee, much like the rural rezoning, conducted outreach for this project. We conducted an open house in January. We notified all the property owners along the river that would be affected by this change. And we got some important feedback that influenced the order that's before you. The Stream Protection 2 was originally written for Stewart Brook, so it allowed for expansions of homes that are in the 250-foot buffer, and that was crafted in response to concerns for that watershed and that stream. The comments we heard for this corridor were concerns about, can I add an accessory building, such as a barn or garage, if my house is already in the 250-foot buffer? So the proposal before you allows for accessory structures as long as they're outside the 75-foot setback, the current setback, within the 250. We also had questions and concerns about, can I continue to timber harvest in this new 250, conduct agriculture, as we talked about in earlier items, continue to mow my lawn, hay, property, etc. So amendments were inserted in the shoreland zoning ordinance per your order 1026 to allow for those activities and respond to those concerns. So the shoreland zoning ordinance is amended to include the Nonsuch River and make those adjustments per comments we heard. And the next item on your agenda is the actual proposal to rezone this corridor to stream protection 2 as opposed to the current stream protection zone.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval of order number 10-26, first reading and refer to the planning board on the proposed amendments, chapter 405C.
Second.
Discussion, comments? Councilor DeAndrea?
Yeah, I think this is great. I'm glad to see this is part of this package. I would like to have the Conservation Commission look this over for their opinion.
Councilor Wood?
Yeah, I enjoy seeing this also. What was particularly important to me, I think, and I would imagine everyone else here, is that in early January, landowners that would be affected by this came out and expressed their concern and had many questions. And what you see in front of you now is an adjustment that reflects the concerns of those citizens. And I think that it provides a good and reasonable approach to protecting the watershed and also ensuring that property rights are not unnecessarily restricted. So I applaud the work of Dan and his staff yet again. I would imagine that the Conservation Commission would enjoy seeing a document that actually increases the setback from a stream as opposed to reduces it. So I won't be surprised when I see that they fully endorse it also. But I don't need to hear from them.
Councilor Alvarez?
I just wanted to echo what Councilor Wood said. I think in January, when the notices went out, there was certainly a lot of landowners that were scared to death. And I think you did a terrific job, you and your staff, to kind of ease that excitement a little bit. And you certainly went out of your way to listen to those people and make recommended changes that they suggested, and it's reflected here. So I think the neighbors in my area anyway feel much better about this now, and I appreciate you looking at all the suggestions and working them in.
Councilor Holbrook?
I just had a question, and I'm trying to understand, when I did some research on this through like land use regulation and Maine Department of Environmental Protection, most of their stuff kind of floats between that 75-foot to 100-foot setback. So how did we get kind of upon this 250? Because that's big.
Right. Well, it started with the comprehensive plan, and
How did we come up with?
250-foot setback is also the resource protection standard. So, in the resource protection zones are the dark green areas.
Okay.
And those are, in the community, those are wetlands of special significance, need a 250-foot setback, as well as marsh of special significance, need a 250-foot setback. Resources of high significance. And the comprehensive plan committee back in 2005 felt that none such river, given that it drains into Scarborough Marsh, that it has a very wide floodplain that's being well exercised in the last few weeks, was of special significance, and that the town wanted more protection for this river over all other streams in town, and felt that it met that bar. So it's not an arbitrary distance, it's a distance used for more important natural resources.
Other comments? I guess I would ask, perhaps maybe we could make sure that the Conservation Commission sees the document. It's got a process to go through, and if they have any comments make, that would be important. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed?
Order number 10-27 is a first reading and refer to the planning board the proposed amendments to the town of Scarborough GIS zoning map regarding the stream protection to district to the Nonsuch River.
And I've already touched on it, but this map is the proposed amendment to the official zoning map that would change the current stream protection district for Nonsuch to stream protection 2.
Right. Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval of order number 10-27 for first reading, referring to the planning board.
Second.
Any other discussion, comments? All those in favor?
Order number 10-28 is a first reading and refer to the planning board on the proposed amendments to Chapter 405, the zoning ordinance, Section 6, definitions for home occupation, and add a new Section 9, subsection B, performance standards, home occupations.
Councilor DeAndrea, did you want to speak to that?
Sure, happy to. This came through the ordinance committee, and this originally was brought up in reference to some home occupations of folks who were selling lobsters. This was brought to our attention. And we thought it would be beneficial to look it over and make some adjustments to it, which we did. I think the only thing, I'm happy with it the way that it sits, and I think the only thing, that we had some question about, and I hope Dan can respond to that. I think that that's what we were going to talk about a little bit tonight, was the exterior storage of materials, because there was some question about things like oversized tools or lumber, things of that nature that folks might have a need to store outside their homes or barns or garage that they use in the course of their home occupation.
Okay.
Thank you. We did talk about exterior storage, and the language before you doesn't specifically allow for that. The current standards in the zoning ordinance don't allow for exterior storage, and at this point staff left that the same. And we left it the same based on the conversation about lobstering and those activities, and did more research on what is allowed in the various zoning districts for boat storage. In the wintertime, a lobster boat may end up on the residential property as opposed to in the ocean. There's provisions for that in the zoning ordinance, so that wouldn't conflict with this standard. I guess the more challenging question is the lobster trap question, and those storing of lobster traps outside. Frankly, I think since that's been occurring for centuries. You could pretty easily consider that an accessory use for any community, coastal community in Maine. I know there are probably tens, if not maybe hundreds, of properties that store lobster traps outside that don't have home occupation approval, and it's not an issue. So lobstermen that are coming for home occupations are specifically looking for the ability to have a modest amount of retail sales out of their homes. So I don't think, in terms of code enforcement size, that going through a home occupation approval process would jeopardize some of your current activities on your property in terms of boat storage in the winter, or trap storage. So we haven't made any changes. If the council wants us to open up exterior storage more to some of the things you mentioned, Councilor DeAndrea, regarding perhaps lumber or other professions, we can certainly work on that heading towards a public hearing or second reading, but we haven't to date.
Just a question. Currently, if somebody has lobster traps, but they're not selling lobsters at their home as a home occupation, I mean, the lobster traps are currently being stored in their yard in the winter as a general
We're not
rule.
requiring a home occupation approval for
Right.
that activity.
Okay. Right. Councilor Wood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My sense, through the chair, Dan, is that just so years from now, assuming this lives on pretty much as it's written, maybe it would be wise to have some sort of asterisk and then a statement that speaks to the thoughts that you just expressed, because I think all of us, it would resonate with all of us, and we certainly don't want to unknowingly enact an ordinance that would make it restrictive for a lobsterman to put his traps on his property or park his boat, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe that would be enough to be clear for, folks who look at this in the future to know what our intent was, that's all.
Before we get deeper into discussion, can we have a motion on the floor so that...
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's
Sure.
my fault.
I'll move approval of order number 10-8, first reading, and refer to the planning board.
Second.
Continue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So that might be, instead of trying to get really wrapped up in specific language, maybe just some sort of statement of intent.
Okay.
I think also, yes, Councilor DeAndrea is correct in that this was brought to our attention because there were some citizens that were a little disappointed in that folks were selling lobsters. Lobsters were the example, but we needed to update the definition of home occupation anyway, because it's kind of evolved into a much broader, in a much broader way than was originally, I think, intended in the ordinance years ago. So this is helpful on many levels. But I might direct my fellow councilors to 9B, when it speaks to home occupations, and when we think of those lobster operations, what we wanted to preserve is the opportunity for a lobsterman to sell his lobsters in, a small and unassuming way, as we so often see throughout town, but not allow for a truly commercial enterprise to be maybe sidestepping what our business zones are all about. So 9B does speak to that. It requires that the sale of a product is limited to the products and articles produced, assembled, and or processed by employees on the premises, and aquaculture and natural resource-based products harvested off-site by family members that occupy the dwelling unit. So I think that speaks to what we really wanted to preserve here. So I thank you for that hard work there.
Sure.
And again, my only input might be just a statement of intent on item 5.
Councilor Babine?
Yeah. I think this is great work. A couple of questions, I guess, that I want to consider is, I always have a concern about enforcement. So as an example, in 9B, at the very end of the sentence, it says that natural resources or agriculture that are produced and harvested off-site by family members. How on earth is a code enforcement officer going to be determined whether or not the lobsters were catched by the homeowner's two nephews or some other family member. So I just get concerned about some of these type of inclusions that are extremely difficult and, you know, maybe not necessary. But at the same time, but part of me also says, you know, I think we all want to keep the farm stands and the things that remind us of home. But at the same time, if we're going to allow businesses like this that are starting to get bigger, because the fact is that we want, the homeowner wants more cars to come and visit so they can sell more product. That's why they're in business. Then we really should be looking at whether or not the zoning in that area is adequate or accurate, and whether or not we should even allow these, because some of these could still be very large businesses, even under 1,000 square feet of floor space.
Right, and to your point, 9A attempts to get at that to some degree by limiting the actual retail sales area to 100 square feet, to a 10 by 10 space, to really kind of curb a number of providers of, an example of aquaculture, lobsters, shellfish, etc., as well as to limit the amount of visitation to a site. We can look at other ways to, again, to prevent a lot of sales from occurring, or prevent other family members or friends providing product to these home occupations. But A and B are together trying to limit the scope of retail sales to get at some of the concerns you have.
A follow-up question. I just thought of this. We recently approved or had issues regarding some home businesses and some exceptions, particularly around the lobsters. The one that's coming to mind seems to me it has more than 100 square feet of retail space in that lobster building that they have on their property. So is this only going forward? It's not retroactive?
Right, it would be going forward.
Okay.
Can I ask, if somebody applies for a home occupation license, are the neighbors, the abutters notified?
Yes.
Madam Chair? Just real quick, a couple good points to my good friend, Councilor Babine. We talked about that, and that is a very legitimate concern when these home occupations make application. But I have full faith and confidence that the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is the process, does evaluate those kinds of things to make sure that ingress and egress and safety and all those kinds of things are incorporated into their deliberations. And when they approve such an enterprise, that it maintains the size and scope that was presented to the ZBA and hence was behind their decision. So I think that's a good check and balance in that regard. As far as the enforcement, for instance, with family members, I think that the best enforcement will come from what we saw just a month or two ago. I mean, we saw an individual that was expressing disappointment that there were seemingly folks that were operating a commercial enterprise and selling lobsters beyond the scope of which, you know, our ordinances allow. So I think that as far as enforcement goes, I think you can expect our own citizens will be, that are involved in the same business, will be likely very interested to make sure that folks live up to what this ordinance is trying to say.
So in the case of shellfish or other food products, there's an annual food handler's license that code enforcement visits these sites yearly, and after more discussion with them, they do it periodically. It's not scheduled. So that, coupled with other check-ins throughout the year, can ensure that Zoning Board of Appeals approvals are being complied with. So
I think, too, when you're talking about other businesses that are not handling food, other home occupations that are not handling food, to expect code enforcement to, you know, visit all of them, it's pretty difficult. They can only, you know, do so much. And so we do rely on the citizenry, so that if the abutters who are notified that home occupation is being applied for they're monitoring it certainly on a daily basis, and so if they see the volume of traffic or signage occur that's, obstructing views, et cetera, it's really important that the citizenry, notify code enforcement so that they can, take action and check it out. I know we had a business in Eight Corners, who was doing two different kinds of businesses on the site, one which was not permitted. And, I don't know how that happened, but I think somebody brought it to the attention of code enforcement. So it's really important that the citizens help us with those enforcement issues, and that's the only way we can keep tabs on all of them. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Thank you.
Order number 10-29 is the first reading and schedule a public hearing and second reading on the proposed amendments to Chapter 301, the Town of Scarborough Administrative Code, to adopt Article 23, Energy Committee, as a standing committee as recommended by the Ad hoc Energy Committee.
I'll speak to it if it might. As I am the council representative to the Ad hoc Energy Committee, and as a result of the work that they did since their startup, actually the first meeting was in July of last year, and we recently were at a workshop where they presented their final report. I thought it was very important that this committee continue to function, and wanted to get some approval from the council to establish that standing committee so that we could have ongoing surveying of energy efficiency by the town so that we can reduce our carbon footprint and reduce our cost of operation. So,
Just a further comment, you'll note perhaps that we have put this standing committee in the same format that all the other standing committees exist. That's one of the goals that the Rules and Policies Committee put forward, was embraced by council. I'm certainly open, and I would encourage you all to look at the duties. I've tried to be as comprehensive and, but perhaps not exhaustive on the sorts of things they can and should be doing. By all means, if there are things that I've missed, I would strongly encourage you to bring those forward.
can I have a motion first?
I'd move approval of order number 10-29.
Second.
I guess I could begin on the second page. Tom was kind enough to pull together this Article 23, and he did a superb job with it. I just had a couple of recommendations on the top of the back page. It says, work to reduce the town's environmental footprint by minimizing its energy use while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And I think it would be better stated to say, recommend to the town ways to reduce, because they're not going to be doing the work. They're going to be recommending ways in which the town can reduce that. And the second is the fourth one, public education and awareness through community outreach, just to make it sound like an objective of how we reach a goal, is to provide public education and awareness through community outreach. Just a better way to state an objective. And the other question I had was providing an annual report, but that's in the overall duties of any committee, is it not? No?
No, you'd need to
Well,
task them
so-
specifically with that.
So that was the third thing, was to provide an annual report to the council that I would suggest adding to this. Other comments?
You think those should be offered as amendment?
Yeah, I would offer those as amendments.
I'll second the,
Discussion on those three?
I'll just say that I thank the chair and the town manager for putting this together for our consideration. I embrace this, endorse this, and have no hesitation imagining that this standing committee is going to be active and exceptionally valuable to the town for many years to come. This is something that is not going to be going away, and I think that it, again, is another example of Scarborough putting its ingenuity forward, its creativity forward, and preparing itself for what is just around the corner, if not right upon us already, for that challenge that awaits us, and making better use of how we power this town. So, thank you.
Other comments on the amendment? Oh, Councilor DeAndrew, sorry.
Thanks. I too am really pleased with this. I think it's a really valuable resource for the community. I wish we'd had it years ago. The one thing that I had a question about was, again, it's part of the duties on the second page, and that is promote the local economy and protect its environment. And I just, I'm assuming what local economy means is that they would be promoting things like buying locally, because that reduces the carbon footprint. You're not transporting goods very far. Purchasing local foods, again, with that same idea that we're promoting ways in which we access those kinds of products without having to reach across the country or even across the state. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to sort of make that a little clearer, because at first read I thought, oh, promote local economy, how does that fit?
But again, in a statement, suggest ways to promote local economy and protect its
Well,
environment.
I guess what I'm looking for is a clarification on what it means. What does local economy mean in the context of this?
If I might, I would ask Tony, can you respond to that? Because are you...
Actually, Mr.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Tony did help me put some of these thoughts together, but my interpretation of that, not only are the Buy Local campaign and those sorts of things, which are vitally important and do all of what you say, but also I envision this committee proposing energy strategies that will benefit businesses as well. That it's not just town operations. There are, tremendous opportunities for local business through aggregation of power and sending costs their way as well. So that was the notion that we tried to capture.
Sure, I'm just wondering if we can make that a little bit more specific.
Can we act on the three suggestions?
Oh, please. Yes,
And then we'll, that could become another one.
I just want to quickly comment. I'm all in favor of fine-tuning this phrase, promoting the local economy, but I'm not in favor of having that translate into a very narrow and specific definition, such as, must be a business of 20 employees or less, and et cetera, because our economy is generated by business of all sizes and shapes, whether they originate in Maine or outside our borders. So I'm hoping that we don't get too narrow in our definition of how we define a local economy.
Other comments about the amendment, the three things that I recommended, to recommend to the town ways to reduce the town's environmental footprint and to provide public education, and also to add, provide annual report to the council. Any other comments about those three items? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay. Would you like to make an amendment?
But I'm not quite sure how to make that amendment. I guess some sort of an explanation about what that means to promote the local economy, because it just wasn't very clear for me. I'd welcome any suggestions around that. And it doesn't have to rely, as you say, on business size.
Right. I might suggest, this is going to be maybe, given that we have a fair amount in front of us, this is just first reading, and I might suggest that we be comfortable with leaving it as it is for now, and we could come back and look at it after planning board review. Is it going to the planning board here? Or come back,
No.
Public hearing and second reading, and have a more comfortable and relaxed setting to really craft
Yeah.
different ideas with that might be.
That's fine with me.
And perhaps also we can send it to the current committee, and all 5 members of the current committee want to be on the future committee as well.
That's totally fine with
And
me.
they certainly can give us some more precise specifics, because they all have an expertise in energy issues, so.
Thanks.
John?
A couple of items. First, to at least provide my comments around an explanation. I think that we want broad enough statements that each person can define what a promote the local economy is, because it's going to vary from person to person. As Councilor Wood said, I mean, that could be as simple or as small as a home occupation that has one employee versus a company that has 1,000 employees if they're locally. So I think that the way that we manage to that is by the recommendations that the committee comes up with, as well as through the liaisonship that the council will have with the committee, and to provide some type of guidance about, here's what I feel. I mean, we've all been a liaison to a committee. This is what I believe the consensus of the council is about what a local economy or a local issue is. But it needs to be broad enough because it can always vary. And I wouldn't want to, if we could really, benefit from something with a partnership with an extremely large company, and it saves us a lot of money, why not? The same thing with a small company. So I think it varies and it needs to be a broad statement. Last, two things. One is, I'm really excited about this. The presentation that the Energy Committee, Ad Hoc Energy Committee provided earlier was really exciting. Some of the details might have been a little way above my head in some of the statistics, but the fact is energy dependence for communities and efficiencies is a growing concern and a growing focus for all of us, especially as we're looking to tighten budgets and get better at what we're doing. So I'm really looking forward to the start of this. The other question I had was, will we be receiving appointment applications for the next meeting so that we can get this committee immediate, started?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I guess when I look at this, this one, the promote the local economy, without getting specific, just if you say that the committee suggests ways to promote local economy, and that would be based on what they bring to the table. Each individual brings to the table, and believe me, the folks that are on that committee is a very diversified group, but, like way over my head as well. John and I, we were paddling water a lot of days, so, but I think, again, if you don't make it too specific, you leave it to those folks who really are in the field of energy efficiency. Certainly, I think one of the biggest points I would make, as that committee looked at the town of Scarborough in the energy efficiency, our departments are way ahead of the game of a lot of communities in ways in which they've been able to conserve energy. They've done a great deal of things within the budgets that they had in order to improve the energy efficiency of public works and the town hall, etc. So it was really enlightening to me when we looked at the benchmarks. We've done a lot over the last 3 or 4 years to save energy and to reduce the cost of energy. So it was good. Any other comments or questions? Motion to approve the first reading. We already have that. All those in favor of the first reading?
As amended.
As amended.
Order number 10-30 is first reading and approved to waive the second reading on the bond order for the library CIP for fiscal year 09-10.
Yes, I apologize for any confusion this may cause. As the council is well aware, your last meeting, last two meetings, there have been bond orders in front of you, which is a matter of routine and a requirement of our charter. It was simply an oversight on staff's part. Reasoning behind that was all the other ones were approved as they normally are as part of the budget process. Some of you that were on council may recall these number of library projects were actually held over, not approved as part of the budget, but came back to the council, were in fact approved, I believe in September or October of that same year, later in the year. And again, it was just an oversight on staff's part. These projects have been approved again, most of which have actually already been accomplished. So we would look for your approval so we can package this with the other bond items going to sale later or early in April.
And I will add to that, all of these 4 projects have been completed.
I'd move approval of order number 10-30.
Second.
Other discussion? This is a roll call vote?
Councilor Alquist?
Yes.
Councilor Holbrook?
Yes.
Councilor Babine?
Yes.
Councilor DeAndrea?
Yes.
Councilor Wood?
Yes.
Council Vice Chair Roy?
Yes.
Order number 10-31 is the first reading and approved to waive the second reading to 1, approve a purchase and sales agreement between the Town of Scarborough and the Trust for Public Land for the purchase pertaining to the parcels on Ocean Avenue, collectively the parking lot, and 3 parcels of land located on Muzzy Road, collectively the parklands, and 2, authorize the town manager to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the town to conclude this purchase. 3, appropriate a sum of up to $637,855 as the town's share of the cost of this purchase. 4, fund this appropriation and authorize the issuance of up to $637,855, the principal amount of general obligation bonds of the town of Scarborough under the authority of Order Number 03-116, approved by the voters on November 4th, 2003.
Tom?
I think Mr. Mitchell wanted to speak to this item. Is that true?
Reading the procedures.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm just making
Absolutely
sure that,
correct.
yeah, helping out the
It
chair.
says the chair will ask if comment, but I haven't heard that yet, so.
I'd like to comment on this, Mitchell.
Yes, I would, thank you. That's why I was standing there. I'm Robert Mitchell, 39 Willowdale Road, and we're just reading through this here, and I guess I have a couple of questions on it. Is, one, what, I guess not knowing, and maybe I should have been doing more research, what are we actually purchasing on the Muzzy Road? I think I understand with the Ocean Avenue, or what the rationale for the Muzzy Road purchase is. The second thing, I know in past I've talked to Mr. Hall about the November vote last year, which I was surprised that so many people wanted to buy land, good development land, taking tax dollars off to turn it over to open space, Benjamin's own farm. And I thought, well, that's $200,000 out of the either school or municipal budget because we'll probably bond it over 5 years. He told me, no, it would be bonded over 20 years. We're going to spend and I assume that's what this is going to be, bonded over some outrageous number of periods. So I have three questions, actually. What are we buying and why? And then I just pulled out the annual report, and does anyone realize what our revenues were last year? $72.1 million. And someone is bonding, probably for 20 years, I would bet, but maybe 5. I could rationalize 5. Less than 1%. I mean, I think the council should look, in light of everything that people talked about, whether it's, you get 3 department heads here, the school, we're talking about budget concerns, and we're going to go out and do like the federal government or the state government, I guess, and put ourselves in debt for 1% of our revenue. If you really think this land is, and I don't know what the reason for this, but if you really think the land is valuable, do a 1.4% tax increase for a 1-year deal, buy it, and don't bury it in debt for the next 20 years when it's less than 1% of the budget. So, why are we buying it? Why are we bonding it for such a long period? I recognize municipal bonds are great. They're probably 2 and 2.25%. Let's put on the ballot in June or November a new public safety building or a new Wentworth school and stop just indebting ourselves on such small things that I'm not sure why. And then, in reading it, why is it waiving first and second reading just to put, the public, I didn't know about, maybe I should have. But anyways, I would like to know, one, what the use of the land is, and why are we bonding everything that walks by here just to indebt ourselves? We're going to end up like the governor or the president, just putting more and more debt. We should save that bond for things like the municipal building, the public safety building, or a new school, not things that are less than 1% of revenue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Would you like me to try to respond to the questions raised?
Sure.
It's actually some of my questions, so.
Okay. I'll try to take them in order as they were presented. If I kept track, if I've missed them, please correct me. In terms of the properties that are being purchased, this deal is quite complicated, and actually the town technically, physically is not at the table with the landowners, but we're certainly a party to this whole process. There's no question. Essentially, the property owners, the heirs of the Vassal family, own 2 lots off Ocean Avenue, and those are lots of particular interest to the town and others. As part of this transaction, they have thrown in 3 other properties that they own individually on Muzzy Road, and these are the first 3 properties on the corner of Muzzy Road and Payne Road, on the opposite side of the street from the school, if that makes any sense. They all back up to the Nonsuch River. I do have maps to show you a little easier. But to answer the first question, they're part of this deal really because the sellers have made them part of this deal. There is some conservation value. Our comprehensive plan, as you heard this evening, talked about protecting the Nonsuch River watershed. This does that. But that's really why they're in front in part of this deal, is that the sellers made that a requirement. In terms of bonding philosophy, Mr. Mitchell and I could probably have an hour-long discussion about that. Certainly, it is possible for town to fund these as they go. That's not been the practice. Our debt load, we try to manage that very carefully. There are frankly differences of opinion in philosophy, and I would simply suggest to the council, as was noted from the podium, municipal bonding rates are incredibly low. And these sorts of assets to the town will be enjoyed by future generations, and I think there's an argument to be made that why not those future generations help pay for them, frankly, as opposed to a one-time tax increase to do these sorts of things. I think he touches on a very important philosophical question that I hope the Finance Committee and the Council starts to talk about. We do other practices, paving our streets, using similar practices, much shorter term. So I don't have a detailed answer, but that's been the history, and I think this is a very good candidate for bonding for those reasons. And as to why we're proposing to waive first and second reading, as with any real estate transaction, they are time sensitive. This deal is due to close sometime later this month. I don't know the particular date, frankly, but I'm quite sure it's within the next 2 weeks or so. And to accommodate that, we are asking for the council to waive that process, and that's really the only reason we're here and asking for that. Just a final comment, these properties have been under consideration for, in earnest, over a year at this point, so I apologize that they've not made their way back on the council agenda, but I assure you they've been active and we've been pursuing them aggressively right along. So I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to members of the council. And with that, I'm certainly pleased to answer any questions you have.
Can we get a motion on the
That's
floor
what I'm
first?
trying to get recognized to do.
Move approval
Move
order, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Move
Ladies
approval
first.
order 1031.
Second.
Councilor DeAndrew.
Oh, I think Councilor Babine was up first.
Were you?
It's fine.
You too.
A couple of things, before I just wanted to clarify, or maybe clarify my understanding. For the public's purpose, the terms of the bond are not determined by the council. It's left to professional staff to determine what is an appropriate instrument for us to enter into, so we generally do not see that. Where it is land and not computers or buses, well, not even buses, but, well, actually buses, I would not want to see and hope that management has enough sense not to bond computers for 20 years, but to bond land for 20 years, especially if we know we're keeping it for the rest of our lives, or the rest of Scarborough's life. I would suggest that this purchase is definitely going to be for centuries, because the reason why I know I supported the purchase of this, particularly not just the Muzzy, it's the fact that we're getting the property off of Ocean Avenue, the parking lot. That is the driver, that is the key factor that's behind this deal, and it goes, for me, it goes to mitigating any future debate or disagreement about Scarborough citizens' right to access down to Higgins Beach to the water. And this guarantee, in my mind, this guarantees every generation forward will have access to that beach. So this is an auxiliary part of the deal that you just simply have to accept. Would it be nice not to have it and save a little money? Absolutely, because I don't think there's going to be any use for us except for maybe some conservation. Because my understanding of the terrain in that area is that it's all downhill right to the river or to the stream, and so there's no value, but it's one of the things you have to deal with in a land deal. So, and I have a feeling, Mr. Manager, that the conversation you have with Mr. Mitchell will be a lot longer than an hour when it perhaps talking about bonding, if I remember my conversations with Mr. Mitchell around bonding. So good luck with that. You don't need to involve me if you do have that conversation.
Councilor DeAndrew.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I would echo that. Pretty much all of that. But I agree. I think it's extremely important that we make sure that we have that lot for access to those two lots, for access to the beach. And while the 3 lots on Muzzy Road also come along with this deal, it ain't a bad deal, because those lots are fairly valuable. Having read over the Parks and Conservation Land Board's assessment, they can be really helpful in connecting some other areas of access as well. So I don't think that that's a half-bad deal either. I'm glad to support this. I'm glad that we are, and I'm ready to move on with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I fully support this, too. It's not just been a year, it's been many years. Everyone, for the most part, is pretty well aware of the issues going on at Higgins Beach. And this isn't about the Mussey Road lots. That sort of was thrown in, I think, frankly, just to get rid of them. It's all about the lots at Higgins Beach. But I know it's hard maybe to reconcile with some. We're looking at the situation that we are economically, budgets, et cetera. But I'll tell you, if somebody said to me, a new Wentworth school, I'm $30 million, if you put up $15 million, I'll put up the other $15 million, I think everybody would sign that. And in this case, the land for Maine's Future is putting up half the cost, $600 and some odd thousand, and we're, hopefully going to support the other half. It's quite a value, and it's one that we should seize upon. And as the town manager said, this will be enjoyed for generations. So for me, this is a fairly easy one of the few easy ones that this council will have in the next month or two, I think. Thank you.
Council Alquist?
We've talked long and hard in the past about Higgins Beach and the problems we have down there with parking and everything else, and it just keeps coming up over and over and over, and this is certainly, in my mind, this is a solution to that problem, and we were fortunate to have those folks come forward to offer this. We were very fortunate to get half of the purchase price given to us for the Lands for Maine's Futures. That's terrific. This is for generations. This is a terrific purchase for us, not just for the folks of the Higgins Beach. When I look at any one of these projects, does it benefit the whole town? And certainly this project benefits everybody in town, the whole town, and I think that's terrific. The Muzzy Road, I don't know where that takes us. That's part of the deal. It was thrown in there. It certainly abuts the Nonsuch River, which we're pretty protective of nowadays. What will happen to that, I'm not sure, but like other councils have said, certainly the most important part of this purchase certainly was the Higgins Beach piece. That's terrific. It's a long time coming, and I wholeheartedly support this.
Council Hope?
Again, yes, just kind of echoing same thoughts. We desperately need some more beach parking in town. It's ridiculous if you ask me. But I'd be curious to know, I'm actually very excited about the Muzzy Road segment, because this is the Nonsuch, and it was something I had kind of mentioned as a goal, is we're slowly losing these pieces. They're slipping away. But do we know how much of this, like, when I look at this, I get excited in the aspect of, we could have a small dirt parking lot. You can walk down with your fishing pole down, a walk path. Is this something that's doable on this site? I know we're talking like, 250 setbacks and whatnot, so I'm not sure how those things apply, but.
One or more of the lots, I think, is sufficient with its topography and size to be able to accommodate, right off Mussey Road, a very small lot for access purposes. I would also note that area of town, for anyone that's tried to sit on Mussey Road and get out onto Payne Road, it's nearly impossible. One of the things that we'll certainly have to look at is realigning Mussey Road where it meets Payne Road. This will give us some more ability, because we'll own the land on one side of the road, to make that happen. I will also note that as a technical matter, it's all town funds buying those 3 lots. So there are no restrictions or encumbrances. If the town wants to sell off a portion of it in the future, we can. That's different than the lots at Higgins Beach. There are covenants and restrictions that come with the state money. That's your next matter that you'll consider this evening. But our options are open in terms of developing it, selling it, what have you in the future.
Counselor DeAndrea?
Yes, sorry, and I just happened to think of something, and I just wanted to sort of reply to Counselor Elquist. I don't think this is going to solve the parking issue down in Higgins Beach, but it might help. But the other thing I wanted to mention, too, that I had forgotten before, was that this whole idea of waiving the second reading and the public hearing, this is a case that I might not necessarily support that, because I think that those things are important to the process, but in this case, I will support that, because I think that this is important to this particular process. So I want to make sure that we're not doing this lightly, we're not interrupting the usual process of democracy by waiving a second reading and a public hearing, but that it is important to do this.
Doesn't require a public hearing because it's money that's been approved by the voters.
I do want to just acknowledge Terry Turner from the Trust for Public Land is here in the audience. Perhaps he could be persuaded if the council wishes to know more about the timeline and the necessity for this requirement. Otherwise, we certainly would not have included that. Terry, I hate to put you on the spot, but I think it's important for the council to have an appreciation for the time pressures and those sorts of factors.
My name is Terry Turner, and I work for the Trust for Public Land. I think Tom put it pretty well at the beginning. With any real estate transaction, there are timelines that are important for this to happen, and one of them is closing this by the end of this month. You know, we have agreements with the owners that we have to, and others that we have to honor. I can't really get into the confidentiality. I can't really get into the specifics of it, but the time is critical.
My comments are on, the timing is bad, isn't it? But that's one of the issues. The timing is bad, but I think there's a presumption by folks that the council is already selling the school budget down the river. And people are second-guessing what the Council Finance Committee is going to recommend relative to the budget. And I wish we could separate those two things, because this is a vital piece of land, particularly the Higgins Beach area, because the asset of beaches in the town of Scarborough is one of the drawing cards for vacationers, and if we don't have the appropriate parking available, then we've lost a major asset to the community, and so I think that's why this is vitally important. It is unfortunate that timing-wise, because of the sales agreement, comes at this point in time. But certainly, I think the voters very clearly said, we want money set aside. We want to be able to purchase parcels of land that will be important to the future of the town of Scarborough, which will maintain the open space and maintain the attractiveness for folks to come to the town of Scarborough, particularly in the summertime for the beaches.
If I could just provide two comments. I was amazed, frankly. I looked back at the memo of understanding that the town entered into with TPL last June, almost a year ago. And in spite of the complicated pieces to this deal, we're arriving remarkably where we thought we would. And that's no small feat. The other thing as regards timing, I've been holding this back, not wanting to come to you prematurely. Right till last Friday, we're negotiating the purchase and sale agreement to our liking, and I thought it was important to have that document finalized with my recommendation before I came and sought your approval. And the final comment, I just want to clarify, many of us, in fact all of us residents, have received mailings. It was a mailing sent out by TPL and jointly with the Surfriders Foundation. It's worth noting that Surfriders have been actively engaged and involved in Higgins Beach. They've partnered with TPL. The monies that will be raised in this regard will help certainly pay for some of the associated costs with the transaction. There have been legal bills and environmental bills, and there may even be an endowment that the town will be involved with. That remains to be seen, but I just wanted to clarify that's how that whole letter came about. The town was not involved, but I think we should acknowledge we have groups of people and individual residents that are stepping up to the plate as well.
I'd like to comment and echo that. I've seen the list of donors in our office, and I would say probably 90 to 95% of it easily is Scarborough residents. I've been amazed at how many people from Scarborough, the calls we get, people that walk down from their work to give us checks personally, and these, these are $25, $50, $100 checks. They want to make sure that it gets in because how important it is to them. As an aside, yesterday I was out there. One of the perks of my job is nice day, went out, and the surf was very high. And there were quite a few people out surfing, and I talked to some of the surfers, and they were so appreciative that this was going to happen, that there was some security for future use of that beach.
I guess one other comment that I would make for those folks that currently live year-round in that area is that there is no set plan for what's going to happen at this point in time. Very, very important that people hear that we want involvement of all the residents that live in the Higgins Beach area, not only year-round, but those that live there during the summer. And fortunately, the current parking lot is leased until next year. So that gives us ample time to meet with the folks that are summer residents as well as the full-time residents, so that they get input into how and what we do, because the parking lot's not going to solve the parking problem at Higgins Beach. There's a lot of other work.
Leprechauns are coming.
So I have a motion and a second for a first reading and approval. Item 10 comments or all those opposed? Request from one council, we have a 5-minute.
Oh, actually, Mary?
Yeah.
Right. This was 4 items. What time?
Yep, okay.
Keep the momentum.
All right, so we'll do one more item and then we'll take a 1-minute break after item 1032.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1033, I'm sorry.
Order number 1032 is act to approve the project agreement between the town of Scarborough and the Land for Maine's Future Board regarding the Higgins Beach parking lot water access project, and to authorize the town manager to execute on behalf of the town of Scarborough the project agreement and all documents necessary to accomplish the terms of the project agreement.
Just as it was mentioned earlier, there are strings attached, if you will, that come with monies from the Land for Maine Future. They couch these terms or these requirements in something they call a project agreement, which is attached. Not surprisingly, we can't simply sell the property, though we do hold title. We must clear all of those sorts of things with them. There will be some issues I predict will have to go to them. There is a small cottage being conveyed as part of this transaction. I don't relish the idea of being in the summer rental business, personally. But with all kidding aside, those are some of the issues that we'll have to work through, and we may need to go back to them and seek their approval. There's also other requirements regarding signage and notifying that funding from the state was used in this case. Fairly standard boilerplate, and I would recommend your approval.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move approval of order number 10-32.
Second.
Discussion? No? All in favor? None opposed, thank you.
Order number 10-33 is act on the request from the police chief to accept donations equal to $6,500 to be expended for the sole purpose of purchasing a new canine unit for the police department.
Bobby, Chief Moulton, would you like to speak to that?
I believe you have a memo that I gave to the town manager, which I apologize I don't have with me, but a few weeks ago we lost our canine unit, Jesus, to a sudden illness, lung disease, and upon hearing about that, there were a number of citizens that came forward, citizens and businesses, and one group in particular raised $6,500 and submitted that to us with a letter explaining that how much they appreciated the K-9 program and that they would like to donate that money for the sole purpose of purchasing a new K-9 unit, and which we previously had in the CIP budget for consideration this year, and that's been removed.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Chief, could you say that again, that last comment? I missed it. I heard removed and...
Okay, well, in the current year budget, in our 5-year CIP plan, we had monies for the purchase of the K-9. The K-9 was in good health and everything seemed to be going well, so we pushed that out to the year that's going to be in consideration now. After this took place, I asked the manager to remove that from the CIP consideration for this current year.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And the only other comment that I wanted to make is that some of the businesses involved wish to remain anonymous, and it would be our intent, if these funds are accepted and we purchase the K-9, it would be our intent to invite those businesses that were involved that wish to be recognized to have that opportunity.
Just a final comment, it's important to note that this was totally unsolicited. I think the chief was shocked when a local business person came in with, frankly, the money in hand. So I think it's important to note the generosity.
Motion?
Move approval of order number 10-33.
Second.
Comments?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Chief, for giving us that background. Now, when we say K-9, we're talking about a dog.
Yes.
You know, a very specialized and trained.
Correct.
Animal. But when I see K-9 unit, does that mean something different or more or less?
No, that's the dog
He's
itself.
the unit,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
He's the unit.
He's a unit.
He's the unit.
And these typically, I mean, obviously, these are very expensive dogs.
Yes. That's about the amount that we had in the CIP request.
Doesn't that include also the training?
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the typical life expectancy of, I mean, was Jesus particularly young or?
This was unanticipated. We expected that he would go another year or two before we retired him.
And during his, you have an example here that his latest fine resulted in the seizure of 20 pounds of marijuana and $11,000 in cash.
Yeah.
And that's just his latest fine.
Absolutely.
Was he a typical, a good K-9, but was it typical? I mean, so we can expect maybe the same kind of performance from a new K-9?
With the folks that we have involved in the K-9 program, I think that you can certainly anticipate
Obviously,
that.
it's not all the credit doesn't go to the dog.
No, the dogs have been great dogs. We've been very fortunate with the dogs, but we've also been very fortunate that we have Sergeant Tom Chard, who's one of the leading K-9 trainers in New England, and he heads up our program, and Mike Sawyer, the officer that had Jesus, is also a very, very dedicated and committed individual, and together they have really brought those dogs along, because it is a process. I mean, a good dog is no good without a good handler, and a good handler is no good without a good dog. So it's a team, and that's one of the things that they do when they select a dog, is they spend an awful lot of time making sure that the dog has the right temperament, has the right attitude and all that kind of thing. Because one of the things that we want to be able to train that dog to search for drugs. We want to be able to train that dog to protect the handler, but we also want to be able to bring that dog into a school and not be concerned that the dog's going to nip at somebody or something.
Sure. And just one final observation, if you don't mind, is that it seems to me, and certainly goes without saying, I truly appreciate all the fine work that your department does, in particular the K-9 unit, and the individuals who found their way to contribute such a large amount of money, and again, reduce our overall budget request from the citizens. But this is an example, in my mind, we're talking about one event that resulted in $11,000 in cash.
Yes.
Imagine you can't really take the marijuana and do anything with that other than burn it maybe, but you have $11,000, $11,000 in cash, which would have almost purchased 2 K-9s. I mean, this is an expenditure up front that pays many times over the course of the life of a canine.
And as you point out, that's just one example. Jesus was involved in a number of cases that he was just absolutely instrumental. I could tell you about, I can't give you specifics, but I can tell you about some situations where drug agents, trained drug agents, had torn a couple of places apart. They knew there were drugs in there, they just could not come up with them, and he was able to do that in a number of situations. So he's been a very good dog.
I fully support this motion, obviously, and I would make a request that we meet the new canine right here at Town Hall, so the citizens can get a good view. I'd imagine that's not an opportunity that a lot of us have, so if that's possible, that would be
I'm sure they'd love to do that.
Okay, thank you.
I point out the actual amount that was in the budget was $6,900, so that was good. Counselor DeAndrea?
Thank you. It's interesting, Counselor Wood and I picked up on the same thing, and that was this whole canine unit thing. I thought that meant the car, too. And my sort of feeling is, and people might call me wacky for this, but these dogs are incredible, and I've seen in the past military police working with these animals, and, you know, they don't ask to do this work. And we ask so much of them. I think they're an amazing part of that partnership that you talked about, and I think they deserve as much respect, I think, as the officers do. And I think calling them a unit doesn't give them that same kind of respect. I wonder if we could give them a different name.
I'm sure Sergeant Chard would be happy to take suggestions.
I mean, if they're canine officers.
Just call them what works.
Other comments? Counselor Babine?
Yeah, not to belabor this, it seems that the $6,900 may not be enough to buy the best dog, especially, I mean, is that enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I need to know.
I just had one question. How long before you would have a dog that was operational? Is that the word?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. Generally, our experience has been within a very few months. Usually they focus on one area first and then move on. So generally what will happen is that they'll do training in patrol and handler protection. And generally there's a certification process and so forth, and they have to go through testing and trials and all that kind of thing. And with the training that our guys have been involved with and the work that they do with the dogs, it's been probably, if I had to estimate, I'd say 4 or 5 months before it's certified. And then once it's certified in patrol, then they'll work on narcotics.
Other comments? All those in favor? Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be
Everybody loves dogs.
back at 9:25.
I don't need 10, but
Some other people.
Oh, I just need a break.
We could just figure out a way to do something. Cats would be doing great, you know?
creating a situation where we're going to have
The March 17th council meeting is back in session. Next item. Non-action item, item 8, presentation by the town manager of the 2011 municipal budget. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As required by the town charter, one of my many tasks, and certainly one of the ones I hold most important, is to propose a budget is really a starting point for the town council to consider a budget for next fiscal year. What I'm about to do is walk you through kind of a high-level overview of that budget. Clearly, there is a detailed and lengthy process that we're already will be engaged in after this evening, and we'll get into perhaps excruciating detail of the school and town budgets. This budget season, I just want to make a couple of comments at the outset, has proved to be particularly challenging. Obviously, there are challenges on the revenue side, almost unprecedented, certainly during my time in this business. But more importantly, the sand is shifting almost daily under our feet, and that is incredibly difficult from a forecast point of view to try to get your arms around what the order of magnitude in the problem is. And so consequently, we've really focused our attention on the expenditure side of the budget, since we don't have much control on the revenue side. Much of that we'll learn a lot more as we go forward. Honestly, things are changing by the day. And I know on the school side of the budget, there's been some good news, and there, I believe, some recommendations coming. This budget represents only what I know in terms of being officially approved in first reading before the school board, and I'll provide that caveat at the outset. So I thought for me and for staff, I was trying to be mindful throughout what your goal was for budget, and all of you participated in the goal-setting process. Your goal this year was to prepare a reasonable budget, and sort of the flesh around that were, in guidance to myself, was to avoid layoffs if possible, to maintain services, to effectively compensate employees, and above all, to limit any tax rate increase. And I'm pleased to say I think we've been able to strike each and every one of those. There's a couple of key areas that we should talk about, we'll talk about in better detail, but generally speaking, I believe this budget meets that goal. This is a quick overview just on the gross budget, and this presentation tonight obviously combines both school and town. Just very quickly, perhaps for the benefit of those at home, on the gross budget side, essentially the county budget represents 3% of the budget. Municipal gross is about 47%, and the education gross is about 50%. If you look just below that, you look at the net budget, that changes slightly. Obviously, we add the revenue component in, and the schools do not have access to revenue sources like the town does, and so not surprisingly, the net impact of the budgets changes quite a bit in terms of percentage. So municipal moves from 47% to 33% on a net basis, and the school moves from 50% to 63%. That should be no great surprise to anyone, but it is often a challenge for schools since they are so restricted in non-property tax revenue sources, namely being at the mercy of state subsidy to GPA, and given what's been handed down to us this year and what's happened in the last couple of years, that is increasingly problematic. Very quickly, this chart will show you the major cost centers for the overall budget, and I'd like to spend a moment and just talk about each one of those. On the municipal side, you'll see that we're showing a 1.3% decrease in expenses. I can assure you that was not an easy feat, given some of our contractual obligations, and again, being mindful and ringing true to your goal of maintaining services along the way. On the education side, as has been reported, their budget, at least passed in first reading, showed a 2.2% decrease in school funding and school expenses, rather. There were a number of significant cuts. You've heard some of the commentary tonight from the podium here around those proposals. Again, this is an area that I think there'll be more information coming. It just wasn't to the point that I felt comfortable including it in the budget. The county's budget request is up 2%. Debt is up 2.2%. This is somewhat cyclical. There's nothing unique we've done. It's just the way the ball bounced this year, if you will. Though our lease payments are down, our debt service is up, and that represents a 2.2% increase. we've absorbed that, if you will, and it's reflected above in that municipal number. But I want to call that out just so you know that's one of the cost drivers that we've had to deal with. And SES is Scarborough Community Services. Expenses are up very slightly, just 0.4%. And you'll see overall, if you combine all of those cost centers, we're down 1.4%. And I think that's certainly something that is worth noting. Getting into some of the detail on the municipal side, I've tried to list here the major departments, if you will, and it's a busy slide, and I apologize. But I think it's important because for me, I can use this to kind of talk about a number of changes. Let's start right at executive. You'll see a 3.6% increase. There's some real accounting issues associated with this. We have some revenue offsets that you'll see on the revenue side. It's not reflected here. Essentially, we are, for the first time, funding in our budget sick and vacation payoffs, if you will, payouts. We've done those historically. We've done those out of reserve accounts. I thought, in consultation with the finance director, that we should really include those in the budget, and so those are reflected there. Finance is down 8.2%. MIS down 5.5%. Planning is down 0.5%. Library is down 0.1%. SEDCO 1.4%. Fire is up 0.5%. That's quite impressive when you consider there is contractual or potential contractual obligations nestled in that number. Police is up 4.3%. That reflects wage increases that we're contractually obligated for. And I'm pleased to announce that we've been working diligently with the union staff, and I believe we do have a concession. They were scheduled to receive a 6% increase, and this reflects a 3% increase. And so it certainly bears noting that for another year, we have staff, union staff that are stepping up and assisting and being part of the solution, using their words, being part of the solution, not part of the problem, and I certainly appreciate that. Public Works is down 2.8%. That's a very impressive number, and I'm very interested in getting into great detail with the Finance Committee and others who are interested, but we took advantage of some early retirement incentives that we put out this year, and not surprisingly, we expected this. A number of folks in Public Works took advantage of that, and that provided an opportunity for us to restructure both operations and vehicle maintenance side of the business in Public Works. And in terms of vehicle maintenance, we're proposing to move to a vendor-based inventory system where an outside private entity, if you will, actually owns and operates the parts department. That alone has provided a 6% savings, and we're being conservative in the first year. We expect we can reap larger dividends and savings in the future. And this vendor-based inventory, if it works, they could supply us with any number of commodities, janitorial supplies, office supplies, pretty much anything you can imagine, telephone poles, signposts. We're starting very slowly with vehicle maintenance and parts first, but we see great potential in this opportunity. And again, it was afforded through natural attrition and really having Mike Shaw come forward with, I think, a very innovative plan that's showing some tremendous savings right out of the gate, and I really expect that's the tip of the iceberg. I expect greater things as we move forward. As I mentioned earlier, community services up slightly, and debt service, the 2.2 I mentioned earlier. I should also note here, this is probably the best slide to speak to it, I've provided a 2% increase for non-union staff here, and I've done that with a lot of thought, frankly. As you may recall, if you don't, I'll remind you, the non-union staff took 0% last year and took that honorably. Fully appreciate the fact that they have not only a job, but a good job in good surroundings. But I think it's important to really show and demonstrate to staff that they're valued. And I expect this is going to be a point of some conversation with the Finance Committee. I encourage that. But I think it's important for me to stand before you and recommend that we really need to take care of our own. We are, after all, in the people business. The quality of the service we provide is directly related to the quality of our staff. And I stand before you saying that we really need to make that investment. So this budget is really the tale of lost revenues in many respects. So I think you saw it on the foregoing slides, that we're trying our best to keep expenses in check, as is the school. The revenue picture is really what's driving and will drive this conversation, and we can wring our hands, but the fact is it's there, and we need to deal with it. This slide shows you just a graphic representation of where all the revenues come townwide to support the operations. And I'll just quickly touch on the lion's share, obviously, is made up of property tax. 66% is funded by property tax. We have state revenues, about 3%. That number's been dwindling significantly over time. Education revenues, I'm not exactly sure what's lumped into that. Perhaps others can provide that level of detail at a later date. Excise tax, as we all know, is 6%. GPA, 7%. That number has plummeted, and again, we'll go into that in a few more slides here. And then municipal revenues from all other sources, building permits and all of those sorts of things, represent 17%. Here's a quick little slide that will show you those same sort of cost centers and what's happening on the revenue side. On the municipal side, you'll see we're down 5.2%. That's nearly $700,000 that we don't have this year that we had last year. We have to make that up somewhere. Education side, they obviously have taken the largest hit. They're showing a nearly 30% reduction in their revenues. The lion's share of that comes from a loss of state subsidy for GPA, over $2 million. Some of that, I understand, will be restored, and there will be recommendations, I believe, coming regarding how to use those funds. They're not reflected here at all. Community services revenues are up 2.9%, and perhaps many will be interested, but I know Councilor Babine will. When you net out the cost of the community services operation, they're now above 85% funded by user fees. And so we are showing that steady progression, working toward 100%, and I'm certainly pleased that we're working in that direction and not backward. So overall, the picture townwide, our revenues are down 14.6%. And that really is, in a nutshell, where our challenges are. To go into a little more detail on the municipal side for revenue, I mentioned earlier we have a number of non-property tax revenue sources, and forgive me, these slides aren't expertly prepared, but on the municipal side, we've lost 5.2% of non-property tax revenue, and a couple of those big ones are the excise tax. The council will recall we cut that back last year. We're proposing to cut it back further for a $150,000 decrease. State revenue sharing has been decreased by about 18.5%, representing $250,000 and change. Building permits are flat from last year, and those on council and part of the budget process will remember that we have them last year, and that's certainly indicative of the economic challenges that everyone's facing right now. The one I didn't mention here, or note here, there's also $100,000 we will not see for the Urban Rural Initiative Program. That's monies to help offset road maintenance costs. That's one I should have noted here as well. On the school side, as was mentioned, there was an over $2 million decrease, representing just about 30% of the state subsidy that is not expected this year. Some of that, to the tune of $561,000, I believe, has been restored since. Again, I'm not aware of any recommendations as regards the use of those funds, whether it will go against the tax rate or there's some desire to put it back in the budget. Our timing is a bit awkward this year in that tomorrow night, in fact, the school board will be meeting, I believe, considering a number of those things, and we'll know much more after that meeting, and that will be good. It'll be in the Finance Committee's hands when you convene next week. Further on the education side, and I don't profess to know all the source of these funds, but there are other revenues, if you will, that will not be realized by the school as well. And so the net effect of that is we need to raise $2,319,605 more in property tax revenue than we did last year. That's a 5.242% increase. And if that holds true, that would put our mill rate at about $12.70. That's a 55-cent increase, representing a 4.53% increase of tax rate. And I fully appreciate that that may be beyond the point of comfort, but I think this is a very reasonable point to start the conversation. I do think there are a number of opportunities going forward, and again, the Finance Committee will learn more as the weeks unfold. And I'll just touch on a number of ones I expect will bear some good news, is some of the GPA being restored. There's rumor that there's additional revenue sharing coming to the town, though I've not banked on that, but I hope that's good news. I think there's also some cost savings on the school side around their health insurance costs. So I think there are a number of ways that we can address this, and I think I'm fairly confident we can get it in that 3% range if that's the comfort zone. But I really encourage a lot of conversation getting to that point. It was mentioned several times about establishing priorities and funding those priorities, and that's what this process is really going to boil down to. Very quickly, capital improvements. I'll just note them very quickly. There's a number of capital projects. There's about a $3.6 million in total. The big ones, the single largest one, are the Higas Parkway and Route 1 intersection improvements that I hope you'll recall from a couple months back. We also put some money in for the Higgins Beach lot improvements. That's really just a placeholder in the budget, but we do expect there may be some expense next fiscal year if we want to move forward on implementing a plan. There's a number of energy efficiency opportunities, leveraging local monies with state grants and whatnot. And there are some library-related safety improvements for their parking and sidewalk facilities. Capital equipment amounts to a fairly common number. Actually, this is quite a bit less than we've had in years past. Again, there'll be great detail about each one of these projects, but I just wanted to put it in perspective. And at the time of preparing this, I don't have the school's capital. I think that is a process that's been, if it's done, it was done very recently in the last week or so. So that's a piece, and I think the Finance Committee proceeded or began last year without that information. It came to you in process, and as soon as I have it, I'll send it along. And as I was looking at these notes before I came up here, I realized, Councilor Roy, that I've reversed two dates here. But I do want to make sure we touch on the process that we're about to embark on. The first Finance Committee meeting is next Thursday, March 25th. That will be from 3 to 5 in these chambers. And there are a number of scheduled departments, and I will be sending out that schedule so you can expect and prepare yourself for those departments. The one problem I had on April 1st will actually be another Finance Committee meeting. It's 4 to 6. And then April 7th, at your regular meeting, will be, we'd ask you to consider the budget in first reading. It'll be followed on April 15th by another Finance Committee meeting, 4 to 6 in these chambers. We schedule public hearing on a separate night, a non-council meeting night. That would be April 28th. We're anticipating great interest and potential crowds for that affair, so we thought it'd be best to hold a separate public hearing. And then moving forward, May 5th, again, your first regular meeting in May. You're scheduled to consider second and final reading and obviously adoption of the budget. And all of this is pointing to the date chosen, which is for the school budget validation referendum vote for May 11. And that really has been driving the timing of this process. I stand before you several weeks earlier than is the typical schedule. I would have loved another couple of weeks to further refine these numbers, but really the circumstances this year dictated that we get this out in front of you. We've purposely scheduled this in early May to leave time on the back end in the event that the vote fails at the polls. The school board will have to go back to the drawing board and propose a new budget. And so we need time to allow that to happen, and that's why we're scheduling it early May. So I apologize, I don't have the bound copies. Colette has busily preparing them, not as we speak, but all afternoon, and I assure you over the next couple of days, collating them and preparing those for you. I will have them available, and they'll be sent out in your packets on Friday. I will also provide that information on the web, perhaps sooner than that. It's all done. It's just a matter of making it available. So with that, I guess I should acknowledge there's a number of staff members here. In many respects, they have made my job much easier, as they normally do, in terms of coming forward with some innovative ideas, making some tough choices themselves. So when it lands on my desk, it's very well thought out, and there's very little work, frankly. There's a couple of fine-tuning, and all the credit really goes to them to doing all that legwork. And I think you'll find as you meet with them, and I encourage you to ask questions. That's what this is all about. You'll find them to have done their research and have cautioned them or warned them to be prepared to defend their budget requests. And their jobs, I believe, as professionals in their given field, is to be strong advocates for their departments. And I hope to engage in a fruitful dialogue. This is certainly going to be challenging. I think you heard just a bit of it this evening, and I suspect we'll hear more as we go forward. And I just really encourage all of us to be engaged, to keep an open mind as you talk about priorities of this community. I think we have an incredible opportunity because the council has control of the school. You as a body have the ability to really set the course for the town. And that's daunting, I realize, but I think it's also important that it all rests with this body. And I'm confident that through an open, collaborative process, we can get through it and identify those priorities for the betterment of our residents. So with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my comments. I'm pleased to answer questions if you have them this evening. No? Please.
Sure. Thank you, Tom, and thank you for the overview. I look forward to seeing the bounded copy. I would like to say through you and to your department heads that I think it's a noteworthy effort, certainly. I also heard you say, Tom, that you understand that the 5.4% might be a little uncomfortable, and that you're focusing on opportunities to even reduce that or make that less, and I appreciate that, and I know that it's getting harder or hard to do that. I also heard you say that your department heads are working exceptionally hard to make your job as not really easy, but as less painful as it otherwise could be. As I see it anyway, maybe using a short period of time, but it seems to me that we're in our second year of this awakening, this economic winter, if you will. So unfortunately with that maybe comes we improve our ability to try to find ways to save money. So maybe we'll get real good at it within the next 3 or 4 years. I don't know. But you know what crossed my mind? Oh, first I want to say this. I said it troubles me that when employees aren't effectively compensated and paid attention to, certainly. And I know last year, and it's gotten some bad press, erroneous press, but I certainly want to acknowledge again the municipal employees' sacrifice and volunteering to forego their cost of living increase, and I understand that they're about to do the same thing this year, and I appreciate that. As far as the non-union employees go, I understand that that 2% wouldn't be an increase per se, but maybe a one-time acknowledgement.
Yes, certainly we could do bonuses not on the base. Point is, I've provided funding here so we can have that conversation as to what...
Well, I for one, and I wouldn't be surprised that if all my colleagues echoed this point, I for one would rather have you look at that last rather than first as we continue down this road to try to fine-tune this budget. And I would hope that the fine folks at the school board level will find ways to come to an agreement with their employees too. It's a tough job certainly, but it's an obligation. and I want to make sure that we can do what we can to keep our municipal employees effectively compensated and satisfied at all levels. So I appreciate this first effort, and I look forward to the discussions. I know they'll be robust and many, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Babine?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Manager, I think you achieved every single one of the goals that the council has set, even at the high-level perspective. Coming into this process and the dire straits of it, recommending, and actually, just to clarify, I thought it was a 4.5% increase on the tax rate.
Yes.
The effect of it. It was 5.4 was the dollar amount. So that
Correct.
citizens can sometimes get confused as well as us.
Yes, 4.5% on the
It's
tax rate.
4.5, so I think that, that is definitely a very good starting point. As we go through this, I hope to hear a couple of things highlighted. One is, of course, I think it's this outsourcing of parts and services through Public Works is absolutely incredible. And I think there would be some type of residual benefit through the school department as well, because doesn't our Public Works Department service the buses that they use?
Yes. Yeah,
So hopefully we'll see some of that through their budget, some type of benefit. So I think there's there's definitely services that we already have combined, and I hope that we do. One citizen said earlier, there are more and more services that we probably could combine, not only within our town, between our departments, but also with other communities. And, this type of facilities management type of activities, definitely, I think we could have a lot of savings. And I would not be Sean Babine unless I brought up the fact about Scarborough's community services budget. And even more so today, and knowing that the school is probably taking an approach of pay to play, and more students have to pay for their own sporting programs, is that I think it's time that we take the jump from 85%, and that the children that are in the community services rec programs, their families need to pay the full fee and the cost of those services. I think that's only fair that we do that for the entire population. So that, of course, will be an interesting conversation as it comes up. But and last, I hope to also that we talk about the undesignated fund and how that's being used, and whether, because we did just recently change that, and making sure that we're using that properly to offset any tax levy.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I have programmed in less than half of what's in the current budget. I'm very comfortable with that recommendation. I think if you wish, you can go further. We had very good conversation last year as to what its purpose is and what the threshold of comfort was. So I think that's another area I would strongly encourage the Finance Committee and the full council to consider. I've not gone all the way. There's certainly more to go if you wish to go there, but there's consequences, and we ought to talk about that.
Thank you.
Councilor DeAndrea?
Having worked for two main municipalities at which I had to write budgets, I can fully appreciate the department heads and what they had to go through, and I want to thank them. It's not an easy task. And thank also, again, the town manager, too. It's having not sat in that in that position, and glad not to have. I can't imagine what it's like to have to deal with those pressures as well. So I thank everyone for doing that. This is not going to be easy. This is my first year serving on the Finance Committee, so I am certainly looking toward my colleagues here on the council for their guidance, and I certainly will have some time to form my own opinions, and people can certainly find those on my website. But currently, it's been very difficult. We've been, I think, all of us have been hearing from many people regarding the school budget. I think it's hard for us to really formulate any solid opinions around that. Now, we might be able to start doing that we've gotten this side of the budget.
Well, I think, as I said, I believe there's a set of recommendations coming your way that will perhaps mitigate some of those concerns, perhaps not all. I'm not privy to the details, but be open and be ready to receive some further input from the school Finance Committee. Good. Thank you very much.
I just make a few comments. just, I really appreciate, the hard work, particularly of the town departments. I had a chance to sit with Tom on Tuesday and kind of review the preliminary packet that we're going to receive probably Friday, and was very much impressed with the effort that has been put by all of the departments. I certainly would invite all councilors to attend the Finance Committee meetings. It's very important in this year particularly, and I think in the next few years that we, get as much input in the process as we can. Because I think one of the areas, and I have to pick on Councilor Babine a little bit, 100% funding of community services does not speak to the elders with fixed incomes. So I'd look at 99% perhaps, or something like that. So I think, there are ways in which we disagree a little bit, but I think all in all, we have to look at how we can meet the needs of both, the young folks and the elders. And being a senior myself, as Ms. Councilor Alquist always reminds me, we really have to look at that broad range. We have to look at meeting the needs of all of the citizens of the town. Education being very important, but the end of our life is also very important. So we have to take that into account. But I do appreciate all of the department heads' work and town manager for a superb job. Yeah. So
Good.
It'll be a good jumping point for us to have some hefty discussions. Councilor Babine?
Yeah, tell you right up front, Counselor, that I'd be happy to compromise and go down to 99%.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Okay, standing committees and special committee reports, liaison reports. Councilor Allen?
Eco-Maine, we have a meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, board meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Standing committees, liaisons?
The ordinance committee, just want to make sure of the date, because I never get it right. The next ordinance committee meeting will be on Tuesday, March the 30th, 4:30, I believe, in this chamber. And one of the items on the agenda will be parking issues at the beach.
Thank you. Councilor Wood?
I'll just mention that the Library Board of Trustees is meeting tomorrow night. Is it 7 o'clock, Nancy? And I think that's it.
Any other committees? Councilor Babine?
Yeah, just a quick notice from the Shellfish Committee is that there are 2 commercial clamming licenses open. The raffle, if that's, I believe that's what it's called, for those is in April. 7th and 8th. So if you're interested, you should talk to the clerk's office and take care of that.
Councilor Holbrook?
Yeah, just the charter review meets Wednesday, the 24th at 7 p.m.
And Senior WOW Group, liaison to that, and they met yesterday, but I don't think enough members were there to sustain a quorum, so they'll be meeting again. But they've been discussing budget issues as well as programs, et cetera. And the Ad hoc Energy Committee, just awaiting, this decision here, and we'll have applications. We have their previous applications to be on the ad hoc. I don't know if we need to have them make out new ones. There are seven positions in now, so that adds two
right.
2 alternates, so. That's it. Any other committees, liaisons? No? Council member, manager's comments?
Yeah, very, very quickly. Budget has obviously been consuming a lot of my time and attention, but it certainly is worth noting I appeared before the planning board this week on the 15th and presented the Pine Point Beach Access Plan. That's been a labor of love and a work in progress for many months. I'm pleased to mention, though, there was certainly some very astute comment, and I hope it makes its way to the council as well, but unanimously, the planning board did recommend and provides advisory opinion affirmatively, if you will, that plan as presented does move forward. Again, I think there'll be a number of recommendations that come along with that, all very, very good, and they never fail to impress me in terms of their technical expertise and their opinions right on the mark. Assuming those minutes and that recommendation is prepared in time, I would hope to have this matter before the council at your next meeting on April 7th. And by then, we will have open bids for the other work that's occurring in the vicinity, and we'll have a better ability to talk about potential budget to do in the near term. Also, at your place this evening, I just provided a meeting announcement. Dan Bacon and myself have participated in the Gorham East-West Corridor Study. This potentially has huge impacts and ramifications on our town in not just North Scarborough, but town-wide in terms of how traffic moves in this county and into other counties, the more remote communities, if you will. Looking at some of the population and employment projections for the next 25 years, that is where the growth is. And obviously, folks are going to be moving through Scarborough and other communities that are satellite communities, if you will, to Portland. And so there's a public meeting coming up on March 25th at the Maine Turnpike Authority offices, 6 to 8, and I can provide further detail and information if you're interested. And lastly, I placed at your desk this evening a copy of the town annual report, and I think someone mentioned it from the podium. So they're available for anyone who wants to stop by and pick one up. Thank you.
Council comments. Councilor DeAndrea?
Caught me off guard there. I lost my clippy for my paperwork. Just a couple of few things. One is, of course, I mentioned my website that folks can go to here shortly. I should be, beginning to formulate some opinion and comments regarding the budget. Karen for Scarborough.com. Also, nice article in the Current this week about the vernal pool project that's ongoing. This is, again, the second year the Conservation Commission has taken that on, and they have 1 year left, so I would encourage folks to read that, find out more about the good work that they're doing. And a brief reminder that the Buy Local Scarborough project is having their kickoff again this coming Tuesday from 5 to 7:30 at the landing at Pine Point, and local independently owned businesses are encouraged to attend. You can check out the website buylocalscarborough.org. Thank you.
Councilor Alquist?
I think we're on our way to doing some good things tonight. Certainly the Higgins Beach, I'm really excited about that. That's terrific. That the Muzzy Road, I think, is just added a little extra, but certainly Higgins Beach is a big deal, and I think the CPIC committee and what they've done is terrific. Talking about the rural parts of Scarborough, I thank them again. I just think it's going to be it's long overdue for that part of town, and it's going to be terrific. And certainly wish the finance committee luck putting this budget together, and as they formulate it and bring it to the full council. I know it's a tough year, but I'm confident we can get through it. So let's just keep going.
Councilor Wood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't forget, thank you for the chairing the last 2 meetings. I think you did a famously well job, and reminded me how well
You're mumbling.
how good
You're
of a
mumbling.
motion how good of a motion it was when I made that motion that we nominate Judy Roy for vice chair. So thank you. You don't have to go to any website to get my opinion. You can either email me or you can hear it right here. We all know how difficult it is this time period. It's worse than it was last year. I don't know what next year is going to bring. I also agree with Councilor Alquist. We will get through it. We always do somehow. But I haven't prepared anything, and I appreciate the citizens coming out tonight. I imagine that more and more citizens will come out as we get closer and closer to the first, second reading, etc. But there are some things that are said that I can't ignore. I can't ignore. I hear from folks that our school system is deteriorating. It's not good. Maybe I made a mistake moving to Scarborough 6 months ago. I hear other things about when I was a kid, I went to Cheverus. My parents sent me to Cheverus 30 years ago. And today, we're afraid that that's going to continue. People are going to look for other opportunities for education. Well, if the, I mean, I hear things about this cost per pupil keeps coming up. And I can't help to think, and of course emails too, and I get a few emails that support the direction the town's taken. But when I look at like cost per pupil, for example, I look at that and I say to myself, now I have kids in school. 2 have graduated in the last 4 years, and 1's a freshman. And I can't speak well enough of the Scarborough school system. And I think that it's unfortunate, I believe, that many will say this out loud and freely, and even express this in the classroom. And you know what? You'll almost make it come true, even when it's not, if you say it enough. I don't think it's true. And that's not because I just refuse to look or experience it. I am experiencing it. This cost per pupil statistic is a hard one for me to really accept. When one uses a cost per pupil statistic, and that alone, and tells me that's why they believe the Scarborough school system is not what it should be, is foolhardy. And then I hear other people compare us with districts half our size and wonder why we don't spend that average. Doesn't make any sense to me. I hear people that use examples, and I read emails that are provided to me that speak glowingly of the Scarborough school system presently. And then they're told how little we spend per student. And now they're disappointed in the Scarborough school experience. This experience isn't half of what they thought it was just 5 minutes ago. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think that we should embrace all that we know is true. We have an outstanding town. We have an outstanding school system. We have an outstanding administrators, municipal employees, school employees, and we meet every challenge. And these are probably the toughest that I'll likely see, certainly. I mean, I look at the municipal budget that was just presented, and I wonder, as I look out at the fire chief and the police chief, head librarian, and I wonder, when we leave here tonight, what would you do to your budgets if all of a sudden 30% was taken off the table? I mean, that's tough. I can't imagine. And I applaud the school board and its finance committee for not whining about it, but just getting to work and trying to deal with it. But then again, I don't listen when I hear people say that our school system is falling apart, deteriorating. That's garbage. And I know that firsthand. It's garbage. I don't accept it. I don't accept statements that say that this town does not prioritize education. When I look back over the last 13, 14 years, I see operating budgets of the school go from 12 million to over 30 million. I see a $27 million high school expansion, largest privately funded project in state history. That's a commitment. I see a turf field. Come on, let's be realistic. This town council, long before I was here, has supported education, and it will long after I'm gone. I think the world of teachers. If it was up to me, every single professional basketball player and baseball player would make half of what a teacher made. Right now, I'll tell you, I support raising their salaries 100%. It's not going to do any good. I don't have the check to write it. If I did, I would in a second. But I don't want to compare teachers with police, with fire. It's a different job. It's a different environment. And it deserves different considerations and a different discussion. But I'll just end by saying I think I've gone over my 5 minutes. Requesting, how do they say that? Request extension for as long as I need. But anyway, I'll just conclude by saying I appreciate very much everyone's hard work in dealing with this head on. I appreciate school board member Mr. Mitchell, his leadership on the Finance Committee, and I can't imagine being faced with the challenge you faced. And what I see this year, more so than I've ever seen before, is I think this council is going to receive, not only from the town manager, but also from the school, a budget that we can actually, really say, you know what, there's not a whole lot here that we can't endorse, we can't embrace, because the sacrifices and the hard choices and the hard decisions were made where they should be made. And I appreciate that, instead of just passing it on. So I conclude with those comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You were lucky, I had you on the timer. Council Hobart.
Well, there's been, I think pretty much everything's been said, my goodness. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
That hasn't been said.
Hey. Yeah, the schools is obviously kind of the biggest, hottest, most topic right now. It's forefront on quite a few people's minds. Unfortunately, that correlates a lot of times to money. So I want to thank everybody for their input. For, against, there's a lot of emails that come through, there's a lot of phone calls, there's a lot of, there was obviously a lot of support in the audience tonight for what they believe in and whatnot. The biggest thing I want to say here, and then this kind of comes into, this is not a problem we created. We didn't just magically say, we're just going to pluck $2 million out of a budget. And we've been very fortunate in this community that we've had some good times for a long time. The economy was good, our populations expanded. As they expanded, we added things like from when I was a kid, we didn't have football. We didn't have, some of these programs that are available now. But times were good, we added, and unfortunately right now, these are bad times. So sometimes you have to kind of step back and say, well, yes, I obviously have a personal opinion of what I think is appropriate and what I think isn't, but at the end of the day, it's not the arena to argue what you cut or what you don't cut out of the school budget. That's not this arena. That is for your school board, that is for you to fight for what you believe in as basic education. I am a realist, so I don't expect to get out of this without an increase to taxes. I just don't see that happening. Because in the same token, we can't hurt our schools by that kind of money. So that's it for me.
Council Baber.
I keep rambling.
Thank you. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. I really, being on the town council is pretty awesome, even though it comes with a little pain of having to make some tough choices and, every once in a while taking a beating from the citizens for making decisions that they may not agree with. But in the end, it's the passion that I think that we all have to serve our community and to do the right thing. And, I totally agree with Councilor Wood's comments about some of the things that have been said. I might take a little bit different slant. I might not be as generous around the pay increase because in return, I think, I totally agree with them in the sense that I think every teacher should get a 100% pay raise, but at the same time, I think in return, the community should ask that every teacher be held like any other employee and that they not have protected tenure and that they are evaluated based on performance and they can be hired and fired like every other employee. And in return, they get the compensation that they deserve. But that's not going to happen either. So, we have to look at the total stream of everything that goes around that. And, some things that were said this evening in particular that kind of touched off that was inaccurate. One citizen spoke incorrectly and stated that the police and firefighters last year received a pay raise, but that's factually incorrect. They did not receive a pay raise. And that we should be looking at. There was a very heavy sentiment in those comments that targeted our public safety officers, and they are as important as our teachers. And so I think that, as we look at where we need to make adjustments, the people are as important. In every department, whether they're a teacher, a police officer, a librarian, they love this community. That's why they work here. A lot of them live here. And we need to be respectful to all of them and be factual about the statements that we make because they do sacrifice a lot for us, including sometimes not taking a pay raise. And I don't believe a 2% pay raise over 2 years is unreasonable by any stretch of the imagination, or a contractual 3%, when in fact I think the contractual agreement was 6%. So for them to forego that and extend their contract, I think is reasonable. It's about how we negotiate. We may differ in opinion about whether it's a good negotiation or not, but we trust our manager to make the negotiation, and he's done, I think, an extremely well job at doing that. The other side to that is that it was also correlated that compensation is the driver for poor morale within the school system. And I personally don't believe that compensation is a driver of morale. It's simply a temporary or short-term stimulus that, of course, everyone likes getting a pay raise, but when you're only getting 2% of a relatively small amount in the first place, I don't look at that as being the driver of bad morale. I think the driver of bad morale is bad leadership and a lack of vision, and maybe what we need to look at in the entire community with our staff, and I'm talking about both schools and town, is what is our vision, and making sure that our leaders are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I really believe that on the municipal side, we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I think that the schools need to do the same evaluation, because what I'm hearing is that it's not as clear. That vision is not as clear, that leadership is not as visible, and something needs to change. The other factor that I wanted to just keep in mind about things that influence the outside is, one of the things about the school budget last year, I believe it was last year, we added to the school budget about $500,000 to support technology, or maybe the school board added $500,000 to their own budget to support technology education. But yet, my understanding is that technology education wasn't implemented. So a lot of citizens are asking, what happened to that $500,000? So it's that type of activity that we then have to sit back and see both sides of the story. And where do we go from that? Because then they're going to ask, well, if we're going to promote I think what's coming forward, one of the issues is, I think it's absolutely incredible, is a high school laptop program. I think that's visionary. That is, something new, something that's going to take us to the next level. But are we sure that it's going to get implemented? There's a lot of questions around that, and that gets back down to the leadership factor. So the other piece is that I really hope that, thanks to all the citizens that spoke, I really hope that they are also sharing with the school's finance committee their comments that they made today and their recommendations. Mr. Mitchell did tell us that they have been, but that's the first line of influence for them, because they bring up some very specific issues around their curriculum and school programs, and they need to hear that. They need to be a part of that, because while we have bottom line, personally, if I get a school budget that asks for whatever it might be, I think it would be very difficult for me to walk in and say, you know what, I'm going to give you another $2 million just because. That throws the whole budgeting process, the whole planning, everything, out of whack. As far as looking at it to make reductions, that's a little bit easier. I'm not sure if I want to do that this year, but I don't, when it's $2 million or $2.5 million, that's as irresponsible. To me, that's an irresponsible action, so there's no way I would be comfortable in coming in and saying, you know what, let's fully fund it all. Because they've done a lot of work on how they're going to reorganize the schools and deliver those services, and that's needed. And last, there was a question I actually thought was a statement, a very good statement. I don't know if I would do it it was made in connection with the budget process, and I'm not sure initially how that is related, but a lady mentioned that the town should go back and look at the TIF agreements and the contracts that we enter into, and impact fees, and determine whether or not the businesses that receive them met the promises or expectations around, I think she said specifically employment, the hiring. There's nothing you can do with the analysis. You can't reopen the contract because there's no incentive for the other party, but at least it's a lesson learned about when we then go to the next contract zone or the next time. So I do think it is at least a very valuable piece of advice that I would love to explore later on. But with that, I hope everyone has a safe and nice evening.
Thank you. Just one thing Tom forgot to mention, if people will notice that in the report is in memory of Blanche Cook, who was our oldest citizen. And aside from that, in the very front of it, Eldridge Harmon, who is currently our oldest citizen, holding the Boston cane, is on the front page, so that was kind of neat. Probably this week, I don't know whether it got in, but the Energy Committee was going to be doing an article for the Leader, and I don't know whether it got in this, but just to let people know what the Energy Committee has been doing relative to looking at energy usage on the town basis. I too appreciate all of the input from the citizens that came tonight, and certainly, I plea, give the council a chance to do the job we're elected to do. We know how serious it is. We love the input, and we will consider all those things that were brought forward. But I think everybody else has spoken more eloquently about how you do it. But I've done some research. I got the Maine Municipal's report of salaries, which was completed in September of 2009, salaries across the state. And there are 11 communities that are in the same bracket as we as far as numbers of citizens, from 10,000 to 19,999. And most of our salaries for positions such as the police officers and et cetera, we're in the 5th and 6th spot. So we're about mid-range. We're not at the top. There are a few positions that we're certainly at the top. So when you look at salaries for the municipal component, they too are at a lower echelon than other communities. And I'm a nurse, and nurses and teachers are fairly similar, and certainly we all, need money for what we do. But nurses and teachers hold people's lives in their hands. And there has to be a certain amount of dedication that goes along with it. So money isn't everything. And I think that's why our students excel, because money isn't everything, because these teachers give it their all, and kudos to them. And Scarborough has a tradition of teachers who did that, the Mar Larrys and the Mrs. Libbies of this world, who dedicated their entire lives to teaching, and the dedication part of it, because certainly they earned about $1,000 a year, I think, in those days. So, and some of the other things that we were talking about, fire trucks. Chief, I don't know whether you were here. Did you hear how many new fire trucks you have? Certainly that's points that we want to bring out and spell out that, this is the age of our fire trucks. And the reason for ladder trucks, it's not because we need to go up, but we need to go out above the building so that, we have better safety. So
For the cat.
Yeah.
Cat in the tree.
Yeah. So, so there are reasons for everything. So, I think people are grasping at straws to find reasons why we should take all of the municipal budget and just dump it into the school, and I agree, we can't just dump that $2 million. I too am available. You can call me at home. Don't call me on the town one, because I never answer that one. I think they've forwarded it for me. And my home email is jroy1@maine.rr.com, because I forget to go onto the Scarborough site. So certainly look for input from everybody, and we'll get through it. And I think we will provide the quality education that we've always provided in the town of Scarborough, and we will take care of the roads so that the bus doesn't hit the pothole and go off the road and kill children. We will do those things. The essential services and programs have to be